Hey, what's up, good people? You guys hear me okay? This will be the first time I've done this for a few weeks on my own. Oh no, just me. It's just me. And all you. What's happening? So just me a meal to cook today, says my niece. You know what I've been doing? Trader Joe's turkey burgers. Damn, they're good. Both the frozen ones and the fresh ones. Damn, they're good. Really good. And a little salad and I'm all set. Hey Pete, what's up with the Lab Series L5? Says, and of course the chat just jumped last week. I had one too. Well, it's right there, and it's just a Ty Tabor thing. I'm a big Ty fan, and I did that interview with him a while ago on my channel, and I got super hyped up to check one out, and I found one on Reverb for $350, and I bought it, and it it sounds really cool. It's its own thing, but it's cool. I have yet to use it on something. I got to use it on something, like a demo or something that, I don't know where it would make sense. But one unique thing about them, it's got inputs on the second channel. They're labeled high and low, like a lot of amps. And the low gain, or the one that labeled low, is actually hotter. And so if you look at pictures of Ty's rig from the 90s, I found one online in particular. He's plugged into the low input. And I thought, And so I did that, and it was like, oh yeah, that's got way more gain. It was for low impedance pickups. So they labeled them high and low for high impedance and low impedance, evidently. Kind of silly. But the key to these things is you got to crank the volume. Master volume can stay low. Sounds the same at any volume, this amp. But the gain or control or volume control over by the inputs, you crank that. And then the mids have to be almost dimed at a certain frequency. And then it really gets much dirtier and tons of sustain. It's actually really easy to play. It's got this compressed fast feel. It's cool. It's fun. Maybe you know all this because you said you had one. Sorry if I'm telling you things you know. Let's see. Jack Murphy says, can you tell us your full amp collection? What did you use and what would you use now for the Black Hole Sun sound? When I played Black Hole Sun, so amps wise, back when I started with Chris, I had two amps, a divided by 13. Mainly I used an RSA 31, which was a Vox style amp, and then I used a Comet, and I was A-Bing them. And then I quickly added a third amp. And the third amp was in the beginning I had two Comets, which didn't really make sense. But then I had pretty quickly towards the end of, well, I don't know, after a few months of touring, I had a 5150 in my rig. Same one I used in that How to Play Eruption video. So what I would do is A-B between kind of the Voxy divided by 13 and the 5150 for my main dirty rhythm sound. And then I would add in the Comet when I would play solos on top of that dirty rhythm sound. And the Comet was set fairly gainy. So I was essentially just, sorry, I got allergies really bad today. I took a Allegra earlier, but it's not 100%. Anyways, Yogi would do the same thing. He had a Vox AC30 and a Fender Tone Master, and then he would add a divided by 13 that was kind of like a Marshall JCM 850 watt. On top of that, when he would play solos, we'd kick in an extra amp when we'd play solos, and it would lift the volume way up, so the solos would jump out. So we both did that for a while. And when I was playing Black Hole Sun, I would use a Roto Machine from Line 6, which was a really good sounding cheap Leslie simulator. And I think probably some compression and a little echo and reverb. And I would just run in all that stuff in front. The divided by 13 was set fairly clean, so I could run all the effects in front of it and stuff. And so that's how I would do it. And then when I moved to using the custom audio that became the PT100, I was using the Axe effects for it then. I would run the Axe effects in front of the amp actually and use it like a pedal, basically just for effects. I had it in a switcher. And I would use the rotary and the Axe effects in front of the clean channel on the original custom audio PT100. And we'll go back to the amps in a second here. Mick Conra says, looking for a pedal that sounds like PT Channel 2. My rig is a 68 Deluxe reissue, no bright cap. I want the feel and touch Ecstasy or by Badger 18. Well, a few of the pedals, the Ecstasy Blue is really good. It doesn't quite get as gainy. I wouldn't say the Badger 18 is close to the PT at all. I would, if you were going to get a Badger 18, I would just get a PT 15. You know, you get the non-IR version for just a little bit more than a Badger 18, really. So for those that don't know that, there's a PT 15 that has no load or IRs. That's a great little 3-channel fire breather, 15 watt. It's the same amp without the load and the impulse responses. Anyways, heck was, oh yeah, so you got a deluxe reverb with no bright cap. A couple of the pedals I found that work really well. I mean, a Plexi tone is pretty damn good for that sound. A Carl Martin Plexi tone in front of an amp with no bright cap. It has to be an amp with no bright cap because the Plexi tone is a real sizzly. It's got a lot of presence, but into a neutral sounding amp, they sound great. And I've done a few demos for them, so you can go way back to 2012. You'll find, you can probably find a used one. You know, it doesn't have to be the big one. The small yellow one will do a great approximation of that sound. It's a great kind of hot Marshall sound. There's other pedals, probably like the Freedman Dirty Shirley would be pretty good for that, I would think. Or the Bogner Lagrange is pretty cool for that. A little more gain than the Blue. What else does a good PT Channel 2? There's a great pedal coming out that I can't tell you about exactly yet, but it's a booster on one side and an overdrive distortion in the other side, and it does a great Plexi Marshall kind of thing. Wampler's got their Plexi Drive, I think it's called. That's a pretty cool pedal too, and the Pinnacle for that kind of thing is cool. There's so many of them. Good Marshall pedals. The Ramble Effects Marvel Drive 3, that's a good one. This pedal looks cool. For doing the Plexi Marshall kind of thing into something like a deluxe. That'll sound really good, I would think. It's got a volume 1, volume 2, and a tone and a presence. You can kind of like blend the 1 and 2 for sort of jumper. It's obviously sort of supposed to do the Plexi thing. You can tell by the look. So that's a nice pedal. So there's a bunch of suggestions. Yeah. As far as going over all my amps, because somebody was asking about that, I can just tell you what I've got in here right now. I mean, I've got basically just super quick in the order of my amp switcher. And number 1 on my amp switcher is my SL68. Number 2 is a Synergy rig over here. I've got to get to doing some demos for a bunch of the different modules and stuff. So I've got a bunch of the different high gain ones over here right now. Number 3 is a Marshall 72 50 watt JMP. And then there's the PT100 down there. My blue panel PT100s are still in Japan. They've been there for a couple of years. I'm starting to think maybe I should have them sent back. But, you know, you never know when we get back to touring and all that. But anyways, I've got a silver one in there right now. And then Top Hat and Plexidor that I've had since 2001 or 2000 maybe 2000. It's down there on the bottom. So a lot of Marshall going on right there right now, basically tones. Number 6 over here is the Comet Concord, which I used this week for the demo of this pedal, which has got a great sound. Did you guys hear that this week? Video with this EF86 boost. We should talk about this a little bit, but anyway, the Concord, and that was really fun to play through that again. It's such a rich sounding amp through the mids, really special. And number 7, I've got a PT15 over here, of course. It's really the amp I use the most these days for everything. And number 8, I've got a Princeton Reverb over here, a Silverface 68, you know, that new 68 Silverface one, which I love. I love having it in here. Just a little combo that I can plug into and play. It's great for, I've been using it like on the, if you guys watch the Hagerman demo and the second solo in the song that I did on my Red Sir Stratty guitar, I had this cranked into the Princeton, and that was a very unique tone. You can hear the difference right away of using the combo in the room and stuff like that. Get a little feedback and all that. And I've got a ribbon mic on the amp down there, and then I've got another mic over here, which is the one I use for voiceover. You guys can't see it, but it's just on a stand right here. This guy. So it's just kind of picking up the room really. And I've been doing a thing where I blend it in with so I'll record the ribbon mic and then blend that in just at like 30 or 40% below the ribbon. And it's relatively in phase where it is in the room right now. And it sounds great. It just gives this slightly, it's the old mic back in the room thing. And I didn't even try it. It was sitting there, and I thought I can easily in Logic just assign a channel to it. And I turned it on. It was like, oh, that sounds cool. Like one of those things. So the ribbon blended with a bit of room, and it gives this great, and I think it's nice. I'm going to use it more and more for pedal demos because it gives that small combo in the room thing, which is what a lot of people are doing. When they're buying a pedal, they're plugging it into a combo, and it might be nice to hear what it sounds like in the room. So anyways, so that's my now that's not all the amps I own. I mean, I can only have 8 hooked up at once on the switcher, only 8. So it's luxury, but I've got other amps that I can't hook up right. So I've got a couple divided by 13s, my old RSA, the one I used to use with Chris. I've got an FTR as well, which is kind of a 4-6v6. I've got my Jim Kelly amp here. I've got a Bassman, 66 Bassman that I just took out because I wasn't really using it for much anymore. Back there's a Badger 18 and a Laboga 50 watt. The Laboga is a nice amp that's made in Poland that the fellow wanted to send me to check out, and I said, sure, I'd love to try one if you want to send me one to check out. I have a signature amp, so I said I can't really making lots of demos for other amp companies and stuff like that, but I said I'd love to try it, and it's a nice, kind of in the, I guess it's sort of probably like Freedmanish or something. It's got a clean channel with a simple like 3-way tone switch, and it's quite clean. And then the main, all the rest of the controls are mainly for the distortion side, and it's got kind of a, it reminds me of a Freedman or something like that. But it's got a 3-way mid switch that really affects the tone a lot when you flip that switch around. You kind of get different mid range. And there's one setting in particular that has more bass that I like on that switch. And it's a good straight up 50 watt Marshall-y sounding amp. I have to do more with it, I guess. Play through it a little bit more. But anyways, those are the amps I got in here right now. All right. What else we got here? When are we going to get a Pete Thorn Synergy module? Well, to be honest, we've talked to them about it. I don't know that it makes sense, although it kind of maybe makes sense, but I don't know. It's a weird thing. It's like, because I have the signature amp, and does it, I don't know. The question is, I guess, that without putting words into John's mouth or anything, he would like to have control over an entire circuit. And with Synergy, the tube on the input is shared. And then you kind of, after that, and you can kind of, I don't know. It's like it's not maybe exactly the same as like having everything in one amp. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, that's the only thing. Now, having said that, I think the Synergy stuff sounds great. I'm a fan. I really like it. So, it's just a question of whether or not it would make sense for all parties involved and stuff like that. Alex is up there in the super duper chat. He says he's got a wetboard with 3 to 5 pedals in the loop of his amp, I guess, DD500 Big Sky H9. Would I run a loop switcher that has MIDI or MIDI controller? How many pedals before you think a switcher is needed? Well, if it's got true bypass, it's not really necessary. And if it's got MIDI, it's not really necessary. Especially if you're running everything in series anyway, even if you've got a loop switcher. So if they're MIDI pedals like DD500 Big Sky H9, and you're going to run everything in series anyway, it makes no difference if you put them in loops. If you can put the pedals in a true bypass, and you've maybe got one buffer and then everything else is in true bypass, you know what I mean? It doesn't really matter. Because if you switch all the loops in, the pedals are going to be in. If you turn the pedals off via MIDI, they're going to be off. So I don't know. It doesn't really. Now, here's an interesting thing. I want to show you something cool on that note. I got this week. I haven't tried it, but I'm a big fan of their products. I use a switcher. Look at this thing. The Parallelizer from Musicom Lab. This is a parallel mixer with individual switches for 3 different effects. So with something like this, you could actually have all the effects in parallel and switch them in and out. And then you've got a dry You got a button here to kill the dry too, if you want to. I don't know why you would if in a situation like that, but you could. You've got individual volumes. I guess these are sends maybe for all for the dry, and then the 3 different effects. And then you got stereo returns for effect 1, 2, and 3 if you want to run in stereo. So this could be pretty wicked. I mean, like, imagine even coming out of a preamp into this thing, out to your 3 effects, and then out stereo to a power amp. That would be pretty cool. And having all your effects in parallel. Pretty neat. I haven't tried it. It's MIDI, so you can control it. You know, you can switch things in and out. It's a pretty cool piece of gear. I mean, I like it. Most of the parallel mixers I've seen are 2 effects tops. And that'll give you, you know, either just the manual control, switching the effects in and out, or via MIDI with the simple big knobs to send out to the effects. Pretty cool. So I might have to hook it up and give it a try and see what it sounds like using that in the with the effects loop of the PT15 or 2 PT15s in stereo. Try my effects in parallel and see. Hope that answers your question. Thanks for doing the top chat there. Okay. I think John's here. What's up, dude? How are you? Yeah, John's talking about the synergy thing, saying send a schematic or something. Don't. Yeah, I think John he likes having the. Don't want to put words in your mouth, John, but he likes having control over the whole thing. Like, you know, every little component and the way the circuit is and stuff like that. And that would be the only thing with synergy, is where it wouldn't really be like that, you know. You'd have to, you know, you got the parameters of the synergy you know, it doesn't really work that way. It's kind of more like you've got control over most of the circuit, but not everything. And then so to each his own, I guess, you know, it works for some people. Not, I mean, I think the thing sounds really good. It just might not make total sense and business sense, and, you know, might not, like John just said here, I guess he said it all kind of in one sentence. He said he doesn't really work that way. He doesn't want to, it's not really what he wants to do. So, there you have it. Rico USA says, have you compared my UAD plugins? Have you compared any UAD plugins? Sorry. For EQ or compression to the actual original outboard gear, distressors, LA2As, Tube Tech. You know, I have never directly A-B'd, but I've talked to a lot of people that have, and I've asked people like that I trust, because I'm interested too. So things like LA2As, like I don't have an LA2A here, but I've talked to people that say, like, you know, we're 1176s, and I've said, like, have you ever compared? You know, I've asked them this very question. And they're like, yeah, like I have. And to be honest, like I have 2 LA2As, and one sounds great and the other one sounds pretty good. And the plugin sounded right in the middle of those. Like I like the plugin better than my, you know, like I still like my main LA2A the most, but it sounded almost as good and it sounded better than my other one. So I find that interesting. And there's lots of tests out there that you can find online where people are like recording drums through real 1073 Neve Breeze and then using the UA 1073s and things like that. You'll see a lot of that. And so you can go and listen and compare. But long story short, the consensus is that I've heard from most, and this is like real professional mixers and engineers, is that it's damn good and really close to the real stuff. And I would say whenever I've tried it, I mean, their plugins sound so good, you know, honestly. It's like the LA2A is sublime. Like you get the B15 amp, the Ampeg B15 and the LA2A, and tell me it's not just like, why use a bass amp after that? I feel even bad saying that, but for bass tones, it's like, oh God, man, it's just exceptional, you know? The PT100 plugin is great too. I mean, that they did a great job. Brainworks just kills it on this stuff. Alex B says, I've got to try that parallelizer in the loop with some effects and let us know any tonal gradation. 3-unit stereo mixer is overdue. Yeah, I want to try it. I do. I really want to try it and see what it sounds like. Thanks, Alex. Yeah. Scott Rubel, all you guys up there in the chat. Thanks so much for doing the super chat thing. Scott says, I want to thank you, Pete. 10 years ago, I found your Badger 18 YouTube demo, and it inspired me to build my perfect amp. Really? Wow, that's cool. What did you build? Something similar? Like an 18 watt or something? I would like to know. Wyatt Willis says, and thanks, man, for doing the super chat thing. Wyatt Willis says, why doesn't everyone build their 50 watt Plexi style amps like Mr. Sir with full wave bridge rectification? I don't know. You got to ask John. I wish he's on the show right now. John, you should just get online and I'll send you a link and you can, if you're sitting by your computer. John says about the I think circuit thing and stuff. He says, to me, it's like doing direct guitar for a track and let someone else cut it up and use their IR or reamp. Like you wouldn't have control over your tone. I get that. That's a great analogy. And funny enough, you should say that I'm doing something exactly like that right now. I'm doing a project for somebody that I'm making a bunch of DI tracks for them. And what it's for is, I don't know how he's doing this, but I send him these DI tracks and then you can listen to a bunch of different pedals with me playing. It's me playing some riff, you know, kind of geared towards, say, Tube Screamer Overdrive, right? And then you can go online and pick the Tube Screamer you want to hear, and they reamp the sound through that pedal and through an amp. I don't know how, but it's going to be like a thing where you can get me to demo pedals, basically. Like, so he wanted like 5 DIs of geared towards overdrives and distortion, 5 DIs geared towards delays, 5 DIs geared towards choruses. So what I'm doing is I'm hooking up an amp and an appropriate pedal, say a Plexi style drive or a delay, and I'm playing through the amp and I'm coming up with a part that sounds good for a delay, kind of that it's like, okay, that makes sense. And then simultaneously I'm recording a DI signal with nothing on it. I'm going to record both those sounds and send him all those files, and then you'll be able to hear, I guess, kind of the what I was going for, and now you'll be able to, he can reamp that through whatever and add the effect to it. I don't know. It's interesting, but yeah, John, and maybe it'll end up not working out, or maybe it'll sound amazing. I don't know. He seems to know what he's doing, so I'm just not exactly sure. I just know what he wants, which is these DI tracks. So, yeah. Ben Coombs is in the house. He says, if you're new here, welcome and please subscribe. Thanks, Ben. And hey, everybody, it's Ben's birthday this week. And he's, I'm going to give Ben a shout out because his birthday. Everybody wish Ben a happy birthday. He's my faithful moderator for a long time now. And he is trying to get up to, I think, 2,200 subscribers by his birthday. So everybody go subscribe to Ben's channel. He does a stream on Mondays. And Ben Coombs, ladies and gentlemen, Ben Coombs. You're making me think about Rico USA's question about, have I compared with any plugins? Stick with plugins or go after outboard? Well, you know, I have one 1176 compressor here. I would love a real LI2A, but the plugin's so good. I just don't know if by the time it's in a track you would notice, or if it would really make any difference, good or bad, one way or the other, to be honest. I love having a few good mic pre's. So I've got my Neves here. I've got my APIs. And I love having one good outboard compressor. I've got a couple, actually. I've got a DBX 160 style compressor, and I've got an 1176. I would love to have one tube, either in Anthony DiMaria or ADL or something, or something similar to a Tube Tech CL1B or an LI2A, something tubey and opto. I would like to have one of those here, but I don't, and I don't really miss it because the plugins are so good. So I guess that's my answer. Is it's like, as long as you're getting work done, you know. It's like, there's another fella that I know that has a room close to here now that his name is Quist. Do you guys know his channel, Quist Guitar, I think? And he makes backing tracks and stuff for YouTube. He has the most minimal setup. I mean, he's barely using anything. You know, he's doing most of his stuff with using, I think, modeling for guitar tones and stuff. And then he's got a little Apollo Twin interface, and that's it. And he, you know, guy's got a bigger channel than I do on YouTube. And, you know, it's like there's barely any gear there. So I don't know. You know, it's all getting work done, but we love the gear, don't we? It's hard to break the addiction. Jesus used a treble booster, says Eternalism. If by Jesus you mean Tony Iommi, Brian May. Shogun says he loves his Sir guitars. Thanks, John, for going above and beyond. I agree. John's the man. He's the best. Abracas says that damn chat didn't jump around so much I could read what he said. He said, hey, John, recently used a Sir Reactive Load IR and noticed the level's really hot from the amp. There's a high-pitched feedback kind of sound. Is that normal? I turned down the level and it was fine. You might be sitting too close to the unit. Were you sitting close to it? Because you can't sit too close to it if you got an amp cranked. Like, I would get more than 3 feet away. Or it starts interacting with the guitar and the pickups and stuff. Any load will do that. So, yeah, try and get a little bit further away, but it sounds like probably that's what was happening, I would assume. Moving down here, Eric Johnson says, I notice a lot of high-end pedals like Freedman and Sir sound great and very amp-like on YouTube. Is there a big difference when you hear them in person? BEOD versus BE100. Pedals have gotten great. I mean, I think John would be the first one to tell you that he really enjoys playing through an Eclipse or a Riot and a clean amp. And I agree, the BEOD sounds great. They're really good now, man. I mean, pedals are really good. But like the other day, we had an amp cranked up upstairs at Sir. It's funny, you know, we were listening to an overdrive pedal. It wasn't a Sir overdrive pedal, it was a different one, but Kevin Sir wanted to check out this pedal I had. So we're listening to it, but then Kevin had made a, just as for his own, because he tinkers around, he'd made a Rangemaster clone. So we were listening to his Rangemaster clone. And he's like, yeah, tell me what you think of this little, you know, he built it in a little box, just super easy to make. And we listened to it through the SL67 with, and I said, this is how you got to use it. Go in the bass channel of the SL67. It's like that treble booster video I made a while ago where, you know, the Judas Priest tones and Black Sabbath and all that. It was all about the shitty sounding channel on the amp, sounding farty and crappy. And then you use the Rangemaster into that. And it's the combination of the two things that make this unbelievable guitar sound. And he was like, oh, and it sounded so good. He's like, God, that sounds amazing. And I was like, yeah, it really does. You need, you need the pedal to it's a kind of a band-aid, you know, but the two things together make this beautiful thing. So I started thinking about it, like how all these great tones, like it's one thing to have a distortion pedal into an amp and that's the sound or whatever, but most great guitar sounds were some kind of formula, you know, Richie Blackmore or Brian May or Eddie Van Halen. It was all about the Marshall and the Strat with the humbucker in it and an Echoplex in front and a couple simple pedals and the Variac. And when you put it all together with his hands, you got the sound. Or Brian May, the treble booster into the shitty normal channel on the Vox AC30 with his weird ass guitar, and then you got these great sounds, you know. So it was this combination of things. So I'm sort of off on a tangent from what you're originally asking about, but we make these pedals now to kind of capture, I guess my point is, like the sound of a cranked amp or whatever. And it used to be, it's hard. It's my point of saying that I had an overdrive that I was listening to out there. We were listening to it through a clean channel of an amp and it sounded good and everything. But the tone that was really unbelievable that day was the crappy, I don't say it's a crappy channel, but you know, the dark channel on a Marshall that you would never use on its own. So on the SL68, it's the same, the channel volume 2. Top right input. So you plug in there and turn that way up and it sounds like just, and then you hit it with the Rangemaster and it's this unbelievable guitar sound that just like is this ripping sustain and stuff. Mid-range that just sings and it's kind of easy to play because it's so wonderful, you know. I don't know. It's hard to get away from that. Like that was really how the greatest guitar sounds were, you know. It was all that you know, the combination of it was a formula and everybody had a unique one. John, I saw John the other day and he was mentioning that Rob Bradshaw used to say to people, get your own tone. Like if they were like chasing like somebody's sound, Eddie Van Halen or whoever, he'd say, why don't you get your own tone? And I think that's really funny because that's what it was. It was like, it was almost like a I don't know, rite of passage or something when you got your own tone, like your cool guitar, your guitar and your unique thing, and it didn't sound like other people, you know, you sounded like you. I don't know. So Mr. Sweet is up there in the super top chat. He says, "Hey Pete, thanks for these weekend escapes." Thanks, man. My question is to have plugins signaled the end of the tube amp. I bought 2 from Neural DSP, and now my boogie sits for the last few. Oh, have plugins signaled the end of the tube amp. I bought 2 from Neural DSP, and now my boogie sits for the last few days. Whatever sounds good is good, man. I mean, like I say, the PT100 plugin's great. And many times if I'm just sitting and I want to jam or, practice, I'll pull up a PT100 plugin in my UA console and I'll play through that because it's fun and it's instant. You can save a preset and call it up. It's the same reason people use modelers. It's just so easy. But all that said, there's still something super fun about a tube amp and plugging it in, and the plug-in ain't going to move air unless you get it out of the house with a power amp and a speaker cabinet anyway, right? So it's like, what do you do when you go to jam? You still need your amp. So I think it's more about using different tools for different purposes. If you're having fun playing at home or doing, people are making entire records using plugins, and I mean, shit, man. I did, going back to 2003. I remember playing in front of 50,000 people in the Philippines with a bean, because it was, I didn't want to use a rental amp in the Philippines. I didn't know what I was going to get. And I thought, at least if I dial in the best sound I can on this thing. It was a pop gig anyway. I was playing with Mandy Moore she was a big star in the Philippines. She was like the Britney Spears level, in the Philippines. So we went over there and played 2 shows, one for 15,000, one for 50. And I used the bean, and it was fine. Did the job. It's all about using the tool that makes sense for the job. I mean, that when I think about that was 17 years ago or something. So these things have been happening for a while. So will you be ditching your Helixes now you have the FM3? No, Derek Chapman. I did the demo for the FM3 this week. Once again, it's all about the right tool for the job, and they're both great. Like FM3 is super cool, and I had a lot of fun with it this week. It's smaller. It's a little more compact. It can be the right thing for certain things for sure. The Helix has an expression pedal built in. It's got its own, that you can use as a wah or volume. It's got great tones. It's got a brand new update I haven't even checked out yet, so I got to get into that because there's some new stuff in there. These things, it's all like, I always say, like, well, what do you want to drive? Your BMW or your Mercedes or your Lexus or your Infiniti or your Tesla or your, they're all these like souped up things that all do a great job of getting you from A to B. And none are, I don't know if any of them are better than one another. They're just slightly different. You pick the one that works for you. You can make them all sound good. I think that's the truth. I think they all sound good. The Headrush sounds good. The Helix sounds good. The Axe Effect sounds good. It's kind of like DAWs. It's like Pro Tools, Logic, they all work great. By the way, I tried the new UA Luna this past week, DAW, for anybody out there that's into recording. And there's some things in it that you can't do yet that make it kind of a deal breaker for some people, but there's some things about it that are unbelievable. The Neve summing stuff and the tape sim on every channel. It sounds, for rock and roll, man, it's got a sound. It's like, it reminds me of recording analog. It really does. It's like, it's just this mids that are like thick and gooey and kind of pleasing. It's like really nice. So it'd be interesting to see what happens with that. I got up and running and did a pretty decent mix on it within like 3 hours, which, like, I've never used another DAW in the last 15 years. So I was finding my way around and going, oh yeah, okay, I get it. Like, Arturo is up there in the super chat, top chat thing. He says, Hola Pete. Sorry, not hola. Hola Pete. Sorry. Switch into Spanish mode. Hola Pete. In your opinion, what's the best sounding? It's so stupid. What's the best sounding amps in the Helix, and what IRs do you like to pair with them? Well, great question. I think that the ones that work really good for me, for a distortion sound that reminds me of my amp, the Peacemaker, I think it's called, which is supposed to be the BE100 model, is exceptional for like a Marshall type sound. I really like the now I'm going to forget the name of it, but it's I've got my Helix right here, so I can flip the preset and see the clean amp that I like. What is it? It's the Lone Star Channel 1, whatever it's a Boogie Lone Star. That sounds good to me for like a Fendery. I can't find it here. Sorry, but the whatever the Lone Star style amp is in there, they might call it Texas something or other, but the channel 1 of that's the one that I like in the Helix for. And then for AC30s, you just got to kind of experiment. There's a few different ones in there, but those are the 3 main food groups for me, like Marshally and Fanduri and Voxy. So, and then what were you asking? What IRs do I like to pair with them? Mainly the Celestion, great place to start is like the 121 and 57 mix, 412 G12M. That's the one. High gain mix of a 121 and 57 on a G12M. You could try the different G12M cabs they have. They've got their Backline Heroes ones with Sir and which are really nice. They sound a little different than the stocks first one Celestion came out with. There's some other IRs that I've got. Recently, I tried some York IRs, and they're unbelievable. Really, really great. Nice, different flavor. Really, I mean, really good, man. And supposedly he's just kind of tuning them in by ear. They're all, I mean, it was hard to find a bad one, to tell you the truth. Like, so the 57s all sounded good, and then the mic combos all sounded good. I was like, these are all just great, different flavors of good. The guy's obviously got good ears. So you could check out the York ones and see what you think. I'm a greenback guy, so I always like greenbacks, but on boxes, I tend to go for blues, and if you want a good all-round kind of speaker that works clean or dirty in H75 style, is generally pretty. The Creamback 75, I think, is an excellent speaker for that, and that stands true in the virtual world and also in the real world. So, yeah, man. Okay, what else we got here? Let's see here. Dripping Glass says the Digitech GSP 2101 was my go-to back in the middle 90s. I remember those things. I had some kind of Digitech DSP 128, I think it was called. It was like a multi-effect that you could do 3 effects at once, and sounded mediocre, but that was my rig. I had that on a 5150, I think, for a while. That was like, I could run that little loop of the 5150 if I remember. If I'm remembering 91 correctly, that was my rig. 91, 92. Yeah. Let's see here. Recent great next level amp sims, says Nicholas, are the Soft Tube Carry King, I guess I'm modded JCM 800, and Fuchs Train 2. I tried some of the neural stuff too, and I liked it. Maybe it was what's that fella's name? His name is Nolly, I think. Am I getting it right? Sounded really good for dirty stuff. We got 492 people online. That's awesome. It's just little old me here today, and if 500 people show up, wow, I'm happy. That's amazing. When I'm going to start my own 4-piece hard rock band, says Bruce. Man, I would love to. Placator Dirty is great on the Helix. Friedman. Is that what it's? Did I say the wrong name about my favorite Helix 30 amp? Maybe it's called the Placator. Did I say that? I don't even remember what I said because I'm getting older. But yeah, that's Brian S. correcting me there. Placator is the amp that I like on the it basically covers everything you need as far as a dirty Marshall kind of thing. The Plexi stuff in there is cool too for lower gain sounds, and but if you want to get a good high gain Marshall-y sound, the Placator thing is terrific. And then whatever the channel, the text, you know what? I'm just going to find it here. I'll stop being lazy, and I'll open up HX Edit in another window here, and let me find the name of so make sure I can find my Helix here. Just like that. There we are. I'm now in Helix world. Let's see. I really like the Bass 400 for a bass amp. Bass 400, like channel 1, that works really well, and it works great with some of the internal, like what have I got here dialed up? The 610 Cali Power Cab with the Bass 400. That's a nice bass situation. I'm gonna look for guitar amps here and tell you what I like for the guitar amps. One sec. Okay. I'm looking through here. The Who Watt one, which is the very top, is pretty good for the the high watt thing. As far as AC, I remember liking one of the mattresses, channel 1 or channel 2 of the Matchstick. I can't remember which, but check those out if you like kind of for Americana or slightly overdriven stuff. The AC30 Fawn is I think over the AC30 Essex. And what was the Placator is the one that I like for. There it is, Cali, Texas, channel 1. Sorry that took me so long. Cali, Texas, channel 1. I think is great for clean stuff. Do that with like a compressor in front and add a little reverb and echo, and you have a beautiful clean sound. Really good. So try that in the Helix. Okay. What else have we got here? I missed a top chat. Pedal plus boost, referring to Andy Wood, Wampler, or Sir. Sorry, I don't understand the question. That's McConra, and you're saying pedal plus boost, referring to A Wood, Wampler, or Sir. Sorry, I don't get it. But ask me a little bit further what you're asking, and I'll try and respond. You can just do it in the normal chat, and I'll look down the bottom in a second here. Let's see. Load boxes or attenuators, says Antonio. I like reamp type things. So like the power station, that works for me better than an attenuator. And I think it's got something to do with the direct connect between a tube amp still, because it's got a tube amp in it for the reamp, and having a decent reactive load in it. So good reactive load the amp down, then real tube amp connected to the speakers, and it feels right to me. Most attenuators sort of bugger with the feel. Now the Iron Man 2, which I did a demo of on my channel, is a really good traditional sort of attenuator that sounds really good. So is Sir going to come out with a PT30, says Jeff? No, I don't think a 30, but I would like, a 50 is something that we want to do. So something that's in the 45 to 50 watt range, I think would make sense, because the amp has a great master volume on it. So if it was 30 watts or 45 or 50 watts, it's like all you're going to be doing is losing a little bit of potential headroom there. I'd rather have a 50, which is a 50 is a really nice number for people, as far as like if you got a guy that needs more clean headroom than say what the 15, somebody that's needs to play relatively loud with humbuckers or something like that, needs a little bit more clean headroom. Well, I'd rather have a 50 watt, and then you've got the option of turning it down with the great master volume. I mean, it's really that the 15 sounds great when you crank it up and get the power section involved, but a lot of the tone of the amp is generated in the preamp, and it's like the amp's got. I was playing through it here at a reasonable volume yesterday, not too loud, with the master on like 2.5, and it sounds great. The point being, all the way up to the 100. The 100 watt sounds great. It's got a great master. Most people will tell you that they've tried a PT100. The master is really, really good. So I'd rather have a 50 watt than a 30 watt, and just have the option there of a little bit more clean headroom and volume. Andrew up there in the top chat says, great that pedals give us snapshots of the glorious tones of Jesus Iami and friends. If I had to rely on only doing it in the old way, I would have been evicted and divorced many times over. Yeah. Well, okay. So this pedal that I was trying the other day, that's coming out soon, that I'm doing a video for, you might quite like then, because it's actually like right up the alley of that Tony Iommi. It's trying to do the whole tone formula in a pedal, basically, for what I'm talking about. It's really cool. But yeah, no, I agree. I know it's cool to have these the pedals and stuff and get the sounds at a lower volume. It's totally useful. It's just we can't deny the great sounds that all turned us on originally, that were condensed down to whatever we hear on records. It was loud and powerful, generally speaking. Jeff Sweet says the Nolly Suite from Neural is amazing. It is really good. For metal stuff, it's great. I tried their bass one. I didn't really, because a lot of people, I did a video on bass recently on getting great rock bass tone, where I show like how to do like 3 channels, recorded DI, and then have 3 channels in your DAW where you've got a DI channel, a clean amp channel, and a dirty amp channel, and blend them all. And everybody was like, "Oh, Neural, they have a plugin that does that, dummy." You know. And then I tried it, and it was like, I didn't. Maybe I was just not getting it, but it didn't sound as good as what I'm doing. It's all opinion, but it didn't sound as good as what I'm doing. But I know the plugins are really highly regarded, and I like the guitar amp plugin. The Nolly one did sound really good. I downloaded a demo of it, and I quite liked it. Okay. I'm going to move down to the bottom here and see if I can find that other fellow's question. Parallel axe, that's it, the bass one. Yeah, I couldn't get a good sound out of it, to be honest. Maybe I'm missing something, you know, and I should try it again, but I couldn't get to do what I wanted it to do. So I thought it was going to be amazing, you know, and then it just, I don't know. That's what's great for that is the Sonsamp stuff, the Doug Pinnick pedal. That's cool. If you saw the video that we did in my studio, and they make a Steve Harris pedal that has, you know, it's blending DI and distortion and all that stuff. I've got the Geddy Lee one here, which is great too. But Wayne from the Classic Rock Show, he has the Steve Harris one. And if you watch the video of the Classic Rock Show, it came out a couple weeks ago of us doing War Pigs, listen to the bass tone on it. And it's that pedal, and it's amazing, just with Wayne's old P bass. And plus he's so great. He's such a good bass player. He's a really, really good rock bass player. I mean, he's good at a few different styles, but he's toured with Barry Gibb. He's like he's a multi-talented dude. He's a great guy too. But watch him on that video of us playing War Pigs and listen to the bass sound. And that's it's just that pedal plugged direct into the PA. It sounds amazing. That's good stuff. Steve Harris Sonsamp pedal. That's what I'm talking about. Anyone, says Patrick Carroll, tips for sweaty hands? Any products you could recommend? It's frustrating to slip all my bends all the time. I think, can't you just use talcum powder? I mean, I don't know if there's probably some better stuff out there, but maybe look at like Stuart McDonald, StuMac.com or something. They might have something for that. They all have all kinds of wacky guitar products like that. But you know, it's like a powder or something you can put on your hands and then play. I remember Stuart from Don Henley's band used to use talcum powder, I think. You put a little bit on his hands before the show, and it would help him. Yeah, I've never tried that, but I was intrigued. You know, it's the kind of thing you see somebody do before a gig, and you're like, I should try that. And you're like, that's probably not a good thing to do right before a show. maybe try it at rehearsal, and then you forget. You never do. Okay. Let's see here. Wow, Erwin Wolf says, this is a cool story. He says, I just missed somebody up there in the top chat that said excellent live stream. I'll go back and find you. Thank you very much for doing it. He said, let's see, Erwin said here, Jimi Hendrix played at my friend's sister's Sweet 16 at the Fillmore. That's cool. It's amazing. I love hearing stories when people say they saw Jimmy. You know, it's like, what was it like? Like, what was that like? Did you get your, mind blowing? Like, everybody's always like, yeah, it was unbelievable. Like, nobody knew, had ever seen anything like that. So cool. How low is the action height on each of your SIRs, says David Suzuki. Is that the David Suzuki from the science program that I used to watch when I was a kid in Canada? Sorry, I bet everybody asked you that. He was great. It was this great show on TV. I can't remember what it was called. It's like he's a scientist from Canada, and he had this great program. Anyways, amazing things. Okay. What was the question? How high is the action? I set it by totally by feel. I was thinking about doing a video on this actually recently. I just haven't gotten around to it. But how I set up my guitars, because it's not scientific. I don't use any gauges or anything like that. But basically it's pretty low. And what I do is I drop it until I start to get a little bit of buzzing when I pick hard. But it's a whole thing. You got to have your truss rod adjusted right too. The truss rod's got to be just a little bit of relief. And then as long as that's happening, and then you can drop the saddles and get them to the point where, the bridge is always radiused just a little bit to match the fingerboard. And I drop the saddles and make sure I can do full, like 3-step bends and stuff like that on the top couple strings and without any fretting out. But there's a little bit of rattle going on because I don't like my guitars to fight me. So I get the action. I basically get the action as low as I can without a stupid amount of buzzing. So, yeah. Mule Amplification is asking if Jose, and I assume you mean Jose Arredondo, is from Chile. No, he was from Argentina. Yeah. I'm going to go back and find that top chat here that I missed. Can you use a preamp into the SIR, I think you're saying reactive load, without a power section and just use the IRs? It's not really a line in on it. So you can't really do that. But yeah, we're just using IR in the DAW or cab M pedal. Yeah, if you're recording, just do the IRs in the DAW. I mean, you can, get a plugin for, I'm using the Get Good Drums one, the Zilla. I really like it. It's been awesome, actually. And it comes with a bunch of great IRs built in to get you started. It looks like a mixer, just pulls up like a mixer. I did a video of it. It's on my channel if you want to check that out. But Cab M is a nice option if you're doing stuff live and you have a preamp and you don't need a load. You basically got it all figured out there. You answered your own question, Abracas. Yeah. I think if you go to my video now of the Get Good Drums Zilla Studio Cabs plugin and click on the link and you'll get a discount. I put a link in there with a discount code. I think it's like 30 off or something. It's really inexpensive. It's like $30 or $40 or something with the discount, I think. Yeah. Nicholas says, I don't unfortunately utilize any UAD stuff, so I'd love to see a native SIR amps suite. Well, there's 2 SIR amps in. Oh, you don't. Okay. So you're saying you don't use any UAD and you want to use a native plugin. That's actually happening. Yeah. UA has a exclusive on the PT100 and on the SIR, I think it's the SE head, for a certain period of time, and then it becomes native. And it's not too far off in the near future that's happening. So you'll be able to get like a PT100 native version pretty soon. For all you guys that, use something else besides UA. Yep, that's happening. Okay. What else have we got here? Pete, are you using that Laboga white small box Plexi? I was talking about it a little bit earlier. The guy, he wanted me to check it out. So it's here. It sounds kind of like, it reminds me a little bit of like a Freedman small box or something. It's in that vein of amps. 50 watt. It's like an 800 with more gain. Yes, exactly. Like an 800 with more gain, I would say. Or more super leadish. I don't know. I'd have to put them side by side. I don't know what it exactly is to be copying. It's a 3-way mid switch on it, so you can kind of change up the mids and stuff. And it's a nice high gain 50 watt style amp. What's my favorite VST plugin for playing clean or blues tone? I don't know about VSTs. I use audio units, so I don't know. I don't know for playing clean or blues tone. What's available for VST? I mean, probably like, I don't know. It's a good question because I don't mess around with too many of the amp plugins other than okay. I assume Amplitude is available for VST, right? It has to be because it's probably every format. And I remember the Jimi Hendrix Amplitude sounding really, really good. So you might check that out for cleaner kind of Fendery stuff. It was nice. And that's been out for many, many years, but it was really good. Where's the fellow that I missed here? In the top chat. I can't seem to find it. Oh, it's a bummer. It was a blue one, and then oh, here he is. Norman Smith. Thanks, Norman. He says, excellent live stream. May all beings be at ease. Hashtag Sonic Mantra to hear my music experiments. Jacko says, what kind of fuzz works best for that roll strat volume off for glassy clean tone thing? Fuzz face types. And not all fuzz faces are created equal, but I found a good fuzz face does it the best. Big muffs, no, they sound the same all the way down. But it's the fuzz faces that do it. The TX fuzz from Clinch, my buddy in Australia, does it in spades. Certain other ones don't do it. It's weird. It's like they have a. It's always the most temperamental ones too. The ones that kind of like seem the noisiest and kind of weird and stuff, and they've always got all the mojo when you roll the volume down. I don't know why, but like the TX fuzz is a little wacky sometimes with different. You can't use it certainly with anything else in front of it. It wants to see the guitar direct, and it makes some weird noises and stuff. But man, what a beautiful clean sound it is when you roll down the volume. I was using the Jimi Hendrix fuzz face, the mini one, for the Classic Rock Show, and it did it pretty cool. You can hear it really clearly in the video of me playing Voodoo Child on YouTube with the Classic Rock Show. When I go to the chords in the see you in the next world, don't be late, that part, I tend to roll the volume down from 10 to 8, and you'll hear it get all stratty and not fuzzy. It's still overdriven because I've got the drive channel on the amp on, but you hear it clean up a little bit, and you hear that all this chime come into the tone, and then I roll the fuzz up, and it goes from like that chimey spanky thing to like as soon as you roll up, the volume. So it worked pretty well. The Clinch seemed a little temperamental, so I didn't take it on the road, and I took that Jimi Hendrix one, and it worked good for the whole tour. This germanium stuff, it's weird. It's like, I don't know, changes with the temperature and stuff. But Danny is up there in the top chat, and he says, how was your experience with the FM3 from a dynamic harmonic content and overall feel perspective from modelers? Personally, it's the best, and I've tried them all. I think it's really good. I mean, if you listen to that kind of middle, like sort of soul groove thing that I did, and the little bluesy solo on my Strat, it's pretty cool. I mean, harmonic content. These are questions that it's so, it's hard because it's like when you're comparing the sound of, say, something like, when I've got like a little combo in the room here and it's cooking with the guitar, it's such a different sound and feel than when I'm playing through studio monitors with a modeler or something. Now, if you plugged a cabinet in the other room, and mic'd it and then had that coming through the studio monitors, that's a different feel too from having the amp in the room. So it's like so much of what I wonder if the feel thing, like I guess what I'm getting at is on the modelers, if you really want the feel and it to feel like a tube amp and stuff, then you really have to actually have an open back or whatever cabinet in the room with you and a power amp and be filling the room with a guitar cabinet in the same way. Otherwise, so much changes that it's like, well, how can you tell what the feel is? Does that make sense? Like to me, a big part of the feel is a guitar amp in the room and the way it's bouncing off the walls and stuff like that, and the way it's a guitar speaker instead of a PA cabinet or a set of studio monitors with a guitar coming out of it. I can't discern the, like things like does it feel like a tube amp? Well, as soon as we've put the cabinet in another room or we're running direct through monitors, it changes things so much that, and truth be told, a tube amp coming through monitors changes is the same. So nothing ever feels quite like having that amp in the room thing. Now I know there's the different, my favorite, I think, kind of solution for that so far is really that Celestion full range speaker. If you guys haven't tried it, the F12X200 thing. It's I've talked about it before, but it's a full range speaker that you can mount in any old 112 cabinet. It looks like a guitar speaker, and it's meant to feel like a guitar speaker with kind of made with thinner paper, and it's not like super robust like a PA speaker, but it's a full range coaxial sort of speaker. And I threw that in a 112, and we tried it with a Matrix Power Amp and HX Stomp, and I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool. Like also on the output of the PT15, running the direct out with the IRs through it. It's pretty cool. So that goes such a long way towards recreating that amp in the room feel, is to actually do the amp in the room thing. But anyway, Marshall T says, did Dave do a Marshall for you like Vi, like the Jose thing? Not yet, but that's going to happen. That is going to happen. That is going to happen. Did you try WGS speakers? If yes, how do you like them compared to Celestions? I've tried many WGS speakers. The VET 30 is a cool speaker. It's like a V30, but with less upper mid spike. Sir has used it. I think still uses it for many years in certain cabinets, like the Badger cabinet. I think. I don't quote on that because maybe it's vintage 30s now, but I know they've used them for a long time. I tried a speaker called the Retro 30 from them that was really cool. I couldn't quite find a greenback that I thought sounded to my ears exactly like what I wanted. But the Retro 30 was cool in kind of a greenbacky H sort of vibe. So, yeah. I need a Sir Classic like Pete's red one, says Alex. It is cool. Such a cool guitar. Really, really cool guitar. Every time I see that neck and tortoise guard, I know. There it be. They did a really nice job on the aging on this guitar. I don't know if the camera will pick that up or not, but I asked for the light aging, and they did a great job on it. It's got a terrific. I can't quite get what I want to show you because it's got light checking in it, but it's really light, so it's hard to see. But it is there, and it's cool. It's subtle. You know, and I asked for just the smallest bit of arm wear, and it's cool. Yeah, man. Let's see here. Use Archer like a clean boost and just quarter away the gain, or Angry Charlie also use EP booster, says Jim. I'm not sure. Maybe he's saying that's what he does. I don't know if that's a question or not. I don't think it is. Dry Glide, says SD Design. Is that a product for the hands? Somebody was asking earlier about a kind of like talcum powder, like stuff they can put on their hands if their hands are sweaty. Dry Glide. Let's look that up and see if that. I'm gonna open a new tab here. Dry Glide. Let's see. Oh yeah. Oh, I remember this stuff. Graph Tech, Dry Glide. Yeah. I have some. I might have it. Yeah, look at that. I actually have some sitting right here. Oh God, it shows you what I know. There you go. I forgot I had that. So you can put this on your hands, evidently. Oh, I remember. I opened it up and it went everywhere, and I got pissed off because it was like, okay, so it's like a. Let's give this a try. I don't know. Are you supposed to shake it or something first? I can see the stuff like pluming out of it. Oh, weird. It's got a roller. Oh. Well, this stuff always feels weird to me. I don't know if it's for me. Oh, it definitely feels fast. Interesting. I think for sweaty Japanese gigs, this could be a good thing. Like the venues are always so hot over there, and I'm always like sweating my ass off when I play over there. And maybe this would be a good thing because the strings get all you can't like move. But jury's out. But try that stuff. See what you think. I can feel how it feels a little weird at first, but then it's growing on me. Speak of the devil, and he shall appear, says John up there in the super chat. Thanks, buddy. He's somewhere up in Canada. A barbecue chicken sandwich sounds good, says SD Design. I agree. Jeff Beck uses talcum powder. Does he? Is that true? I didn't know that. Yeah, that's what Stuart used to do. This little talcum powder on his hands before the gig. Maybe that's where he got it from. I wonder. I'm gonna put on my glasses because I'm tired of squinting. Let's not work harder than we need to, right? So much better. Powder makes a nasty, pasty film when it mixes with sweat, says Mike. Yeah, maybe it's just like the not using too much. Okay, I'm going to go down to the bottom of the chat. Pete, how high do you like to run your master volume on a Freedman amp for pushed 800 tones? If you've got a Freedman amp or a PT100 or something like that, know that by the time the master's up, I mean, it's going to be different for every amp, but if that master's up at 3 or 4, you're basically making full power by that point. It's not like, oh, it's going to keep getting louder as I get up to 10, you know. It varies for every amp, but pretty much by the time I had a Freedman of BE, and by the time that master's on 5, it's like you basically got a Plexi non-master volume at that point. You know, it's full power. So yeah, it's always like just turn it up until it sounds good, basically, I think. But yeah. Who is the biggest inspiration for you? That's a great question. God, I really have to think about that. Biggest inspiration for me, like especially these days. Like it's so weird because like you look through the Instagram and it's like there's 20 million guitar players and you know, or YouTube, and I still get inspired by the guys that just have great phrasing, and when I see somebody that's got beautiful phrasing and tone and is playing music as opposed to just licks, you know. Do you know what I mean? Like there was this terrific blues player that, what's his name? I'm gonna give him props because it looks, I'm gonna get his chord. It looks really good. It's on Instagram, and listen to the whole thing, you know, it just sounded so damn good. I'm gonna find this thing here, and his name is David Panozzo. DAVIDE dot PANOZZO is his name. So he's got a blues course that and you know his dad, he describes himself as a tasty blend between Jeff Beck, Robin Ford, and John Schofield. And I wonder where he is, if he's in like Italy or something, I guess. But man, he's got this blues chorus, and I'm gonna get it because he sounded so good playing. Just it was an ad for this chorus. He was just playing this beautiful, you know, his phrasing was gorgeous. So that still just, I don't know, when I see something like that, it's really inspiring for me. Makes me want to pick up the guitar, you know, somebody that plays beautifully. And you know, there's so many of them out there these days, but there's also a lot of people just playing super fast licks. Zach says, hey, Pete, what's your favorite studio mics if you could only choose one or two for amps and vocals? Well, you have to have a 57. And for vocals, thanks, Pete from Alberta, says Zach. You bet, man. For vocals, you know, a good large diaphragm condenser of some sort is kind of good to have around. I've got a Mojave MA200 that I quite like. It's a little hyped in the top end, but it's nice. I have another mic here that called a Lewitt, and it's the 440. I can't remember, LCT 440 or something it's called, but 440. Just remember that in a Lewitt, and you'll know which one it is. It's $250, I think, and it sounds great. Something like that, you know. If you have a 7 one of those, you'd be all set. I really like, you know, the expensive, you know, C12s and 47s and stuff, but they're so out of reach for most people. A great deal right now is that I'll give my buddy Stephen Slate a plug. He's got his modeling mic, which models all those great mics. Like it's got a model UC67. So it's a great sounding flat condenser mic essentially, and then you use it with software to get the sound of a C12 or get the sound of, you know, a bunch of different Sony C800, all these different mics that are the software model, and it's on for $499 right now. So and watch the online demos and stuff. I mean, it sounds really good. You know, it seems like you can get really close to the tone of a lot of different microphones or something like that. I might pick one up, actually. I'm reminding myself I should probably go online and order one before sale's over. It's normally like $7.99 or something. So anyways, but that and a 57, you know. Any thoughts on Matthew Good, says Nathaniel. I know he's a, you know, he's a Canadian guy, and I kind of missed the boat on him because we don't really hear a lot of, if you don't break in the States, it's like I just don't hear that music down here, but I know he's did quite well in Canada. So I remember hearing a few of his tunes, but I don't really have a perspective on Matthew Good because it just didn't really, I was already in LA by the time he was out and doing stuff. Daniel says, Pete, are the hand-wound Alnico 4 PAFs in your Yaren similar to the Thornbuckers? I would say so. I mean, yeah. You know, I don't know exactly. It's not like we ever looked at, took that, I've never had the cover off that Alnico 4 PAF that's in there, but I knew it. The basic formula was it's Alnico 4 and it's slightly mismatched coils. And I know about the K ohms, whatever output of the pickup or whatever. And beyond that, when we did the Thornbucker, it was like, yeah, I'm really liking this Alnico 4 humbucker that I've got in this guitar. Can we try something? And we just wound until we found something that we liked. So I would say it's similar. It's probably not, it's not exactly the same by any means. I don't know how many turns of wire he uses or anything, or the exact specifics. Who knows? I'm sure he's doing some, maybe he's not doing any proprietary stuff or secret sauce, but you know what I mean? Every pickup's a little bit, how they wind them and stuff. And I think his wife winds those in his kitchen. So from what I understand, but they sound great. The ones in my Yarens, and the Thornbucker sounds great too. Ever thought of doing a guitar build, say with Warmoth parts? Well, I've done them. I built a guitar when I was 16. One of my first kind of shredder guitars I had was a neck that was probably made by Godin or something. And I had the body cut out by a local wood shop from a piece of poplar, and then painted it at an auto body place and put it all together, with the neck I'd bought. It was a kit guitar. And I think I had an Ibanez Edge trim on it, and probably like a Jackson pickup or something was what I had in that guitar. But, it all worked when I got it together. It was pretty cool. We were all inspired by Eddie Van Halen and all that back then. Yeah. Vincent says, hi, Pete. Thanks so much for your help with my Ampete configuration. I really appreciate it. You bet, man. Glad you got it going. Pretty easy, right? Works good with the I think you were using it with a load. Yeah, it works really good. Eternalism is recommending an MXL large diaphragm mic for $70. Yeah, some good ones out there, for inexpensive for sure. Audio Technica makes great mics. Anything they make that's reasonable prices. Hey, I use the Samson one. I mean, I like this mic too. It's a USB mic. I've never tried singing into it, but it does cardioid, figure 8, Omni, and sounds really good. It's strictly USB, so you have to use it as an interface, but works good. What device would you recommend to lower the voltage to vintage amps? Have you tried a brown box? That's the one. I haven't tried it, but it seems like the popular choice. People like Peter Stroud, I know, uses it, and it seems perfect. Set it at 110 and make your vintage Marshall happy. I should be using one on my old Marshall here, actually. Maybe I should buy one of those things, actually. It's another thing. The brown box and the microphone. You guys are making me spend money today. Everybody always says I make them spend money. Now you guys are making me spend money. Reminding me, do I ever plug into my Kelly anymore? Not for a little while, but it's a terrific amplifier. That's Era Greenstein. Great amplifier, like Jim Kelly. If you want to hear it the way I used to use it, I did a video rig rundown back in 2011, I think, and it's with Melissa Etheridge at the Long Beach Performing Arts Center, and you can hear the amplifier there, and sounds really good. Pete should Variac his 72 Marshalls, says Diana Thompson. Well, I got the as far as the Variac, like the 90 volts thing, I have the SL68, so it's like right up there. I can go to a low power thing, and have that sound. So I would like to. BV Ninja says, pay the extra for Variac. You have more control to lower or raise. I think Variacs are cheaper, actually. You can get a decent Variac for not very much money. I have one. I have a great big one that's I used to use all the time, but where it is, actually, I think it's in a storage unit. Haven't used it for a while, but the brown box seems cool because it's got the digital out. The brown box I don't think is supposed to be like a Variac cell thing. It's more like make your vintage amps happy, because Marshalls used to want to see 110 volts, not 118 or 120 or whatever, right? So you can just turn them down to 108 or 110 or whatever and keep your amp happy. I think they sound better. A little bit less voltage. I do. I mean, I use the SL68 almost exclusively in the low power setting, the low voltage setting, I should say. It just sounds great. and it's, I know it's easier on the tubes and stuff. And Matthew Kennedy is up there in the top chat. He says, I've been building a parts caster and wondering what you think the most important parts are with bolt-ons. The neck has always felt like the most important part to me. Well, the neck, if the guitar doesn't feel good, then you're not going to want to play it. So beyond the feel is the most important thing to me. And then comes sound. So yeah, definitely the neck is important. I mean, the bridge, super important. But it's all the stuff you would think, I mean, good, neck, body, bridge, pickups, electronics, tuners. And then, of course, having somebody put it together that if you're building it yourself, make sure little things like cutting the nut just right is like the whole guitar goes out the window if the nut's not perfect to me. I can't play it if like the nut's too high or so make sure it's, if you're not, used to slotting nuts and stuff like that, that it's just perfect. And also the fret rest and stuff like that. Warmoth has a pretty good reputation, generally speaking. I think Warmoth and my black kit guitar is Musicraft and KNE, I think, the body and the neck, which neither of which I'm familiar with ordering from, but I bought the guitar already made, and it's pretty damn cool. It's got a thing, that guitar. Per Nilsson says, have you tried a guitar with true temperament? True temperament. Is that anything like the Buzz Featon? Because I have a few Buzz Feet, like you can see it right there, just beside my ear, that headstock right there. That guitar is got the Buzz Featon tuning thing. I don't know if that's similar or not. Is true temperament maybe when you see the fretzel, like you see all the, maybe that's what true temperament is? I don't know. I've never tried that. Looks amazing. And what happens if you need a refret? You're screwed. I guess they probably use stainless steel frets for those, but Eternalism is mentioning Iron Maiden history videos. Surprising how much rotation of band members. Be consistent, I guess. I'm not sure what you guys were talking about. Maybe that's a response to something, but I did watch a really interesting early Iron Maiden documentary the other day that was talking about them in the 70s. And yeah, there was a hell of a lot of people that came through the band before they finally sort of settled on the lineup where, Paul Di'Anno, the Killers lineup. And then he was gone, and they got Bruce, and then Clive was gone, right? And they got Nico, and since then, except for adding Yannick, it's been pretty much solid. But Steve was there the whole way through, and I think pretty early on, Dave, right? I think. Is a brass nut a bad idea, and why? Says like it or not. Well, Eddie had one on Van Halen 1. Brass nut with really wide slots that evidently he cut so wide, and he used to wind the string up the tuning post. Do you guys know that? So it was like, before the days of staggered tuners, instead of winding the string down for tension, he'd actually wind up. So he had very little downward, which is amazing to me, but he had very little downward tension in the nut and 3-in-1 oil and stuff in a brass nut. And he said when he'd play really hard, he'd have to hold the string, like playing an open, he'd have to hold the string behind the nut so that the strings didn't fly out of the nut, pop out, but he was doing what he could to keep the strap bridge in tune. Dave Freedman's mentioned on his show on Friday, says more guitars. The digital readout Variac for $80 will do the same thing as a brown box, I guess. Yeah, it's probably, they're doing the exact same thing. They're lowering or, telling you voltage, that's it, right? So, yeah. Okay. Thanks for the presets for the Fractal gear, says John. Yeah, if you guys didn't see, I did a video for the Fractal FM3. It came out yesterday, I think. And I did the 10 presets that I used in the video I made available. So you can go there. If you go to the video description, if you've got an FM3 or an Axe FX3, you can click on the link in the video description. You can download my presets and load them in, see what you think. There's a few real cool ones in there, I think. Somebody was complaining because there's no scenes. Well, I only made the one sound, so I got rid of the rest of the scenes. So in other words, you can do like up to 10 scenes in an Axe FX preset. I just did it so that one sound per preset. If you want to somehow build scenes out of that or something, that's up to you. But Yeah, there's a whole range of stuff there, from raw Plexi stuff to synth that doesn't even sound like guitar. So 10 different presets. Check them out if you have an XFX 3. Have I ever played with Johnny Depp? No. That's from William. I have not played with Johnny Depp. I like that new single with Jeff Beck. It's great, right? John Lennon cover. Killer. Awesome. What do I think about the Carl Martin Plexi tone? It's funny. So I was talking about it a little bit earlier. It's great. I actually helped voice the second one, the orange or the mustard colored one. So I had a little bit of in the development of that. It is a really great sounding pedal for a modded kind of, Van Halen Plexi kind of sound. Now you need to run it into an amp that's not too bright. It won't work into an amp with a bright switch on, or it just sound really. It doesn't. It's got a tone control that works pretty well, but it doesn't sound quite the same when you roll the tone control all the way back. If you're using a bright amp to get the pedal to not take your head off, it really sounds great into an amp with a Fender clean channel with no bright on, no bright cap, or then it's just ripping sounding. Sounds great. Or into an AC30 normal channel. Great. Mike Skinner is here in the UK, in Norwich. What's up, man? Just to say, really enjoyed the podcast with Jesse the other day. Keep safe. Thanks, man. I had fun there. I remember that place well. I remember finding the Thorn's hardware store there. And you stay safe over there as well. We'll get back over there sometime soon, I hope, and make some music. Yeah. John says that he tried the presets and that they translated real well to his hands, guitars, and listening environment. That's cool. That's awesome. I'm glad you like them. I'm glad you like them. And John was up there in the super duper top chat as well. And thanks, man, for that. Let's see here. John Stitt is recommending getting some good nut slot files if you want to get the nut action, nut, and string height just right. Yeah, it's not something I've ever done. I don't know anything about cutting a nut on a guitar. It scares the hell out of me. But I suppose it's one of those things I could learn, just like cooking, like I've had to learn over the last couple months. And gone like, oh, hey, I can actually do this. Generally speaking, it's good to keep my hands away from soldering irons and things like files. That's what I've found. Always disappointed with the volume and headroom drop of fuzzes. Any tips or fuzzes that address this, says Aaron. Fuzz faces do that. I mean, it's hard to get them kind of unity gain, but it's part of the sound, I think. Maybe you just want a different kind of fuzz. If you try something like the Sir Rufus, it's definitely got plenty of, gain and all that built in. I always recommend the Starlight fuzz from Crazy Tube Circuits as well, because it's a great sounding fuzz that is I always say it's for people that don't like fuzz. It's the fuzz for people that don't like fuzz. It's part overdrive, part distortion, part fuzz, really. And as the gain gets up on it, it definitely has a fuzz quality. Big fat single notes, that kind of thing. It's a wonderful pedal in front of a clean amp to use as an alternate kind of lead sound. If your main lead sound is like a Hot Marshall kind of thing or something, but then you're like, yeah, every now and then I'd like to have something that veers towards Gilmore or Big Muff, but I don't really want to go all the way. The Starlight fuzz, man, just try it. It's so great. It's got this big fat, great kind of part fuzz, part distortion. It's really nice. Hossam Farag says he's using a GT100 for almost 5 years. Do I recommend to upgrade it to an AX8? Well, I would probably, rather than do the X8, I would get the new FM3 thing because it's the latest and the greatest. To be honest, I like the AX8. I like this new thing better. I used the AX8 quite a bit last year on tour from one-offs with Mark Martel. It did the great AC30 thing really well, and so I played it with the Brian May guitar and stuff, and it was really cool. But I found the AX8, the only thing about it is it's difficult to program, sort of, like I can't find my way around on it. It was really confusing for me. Finding my way around on this unit was easier. I still like to use it with the editor, but this is just easier. It's a simpler unit. It's a little smaller. It's just a little, I don't know, it's a little more sexy. So, that's what I found. Somehow I highlight Stealth Parrot's comment. Do you have a band, Jason Hobbs? I don't know how I did that, but it's now in the... I'm still learning how to use the StreamYard thing. Here, let's put up a banner. Then I can change it. One sec here. There we go. Okay. Yeah, StreamYard. How do you guys liking the StreamYard thing, by the way? It's pretty cool, right? The video looks good, right? I mean, it's better than what I used to do, right? Starting a few weeks ago, I started using this, and it's pretty good. This was Ben Coombs recommending this to me, and I quite like it. Folks are talking in the chat about what tempered tuning is, or tempered guitar, and Randy's saying tempered nut. Somebody else said squiggly frets. I'm not sure exactly. The only thing I've ever tried is the Buzz Featon thing. Blue-Eyed Whiskey says, hey, Pete, do you have any recommendations for pedal boards and cases? I'm looking for something to house 6 small to medium pedals. If you look, it's way back on my Instagram, but Gator's got a thing. They're making it for the Helix. So when I think about 6 small to medium pedals, it might fit in there. Look for this Gator. Look at the Gator cases, and you'll find something that they kind of have for pedal boards and stuff. If that doesn't work, Pelicans are great. I mean, get a pedal board from, you get pedal boards from just about anybody these days. Get a Freedman one or something that fits, and then find the appropriate size Pelican and pop it in there. And they're inexpensive and they're super strong. Yeah, generally speaking. EJ says, just wanted to say that Candy Apple Sir is beautiful. I love this thing. I love it. It actually had sort of whiter, a couple weeks ago, it had whiter knobs and single coil pickup covers, more like parchment. And I changed them to these cream ones that I had, which I think looks really cool. So they're sort of, I don't know if they're mint green or cream, but they're aged by me because I've had them for 20 years and they were on a different guitar, but I think it looks really cool. Hard to tell with the lighting and stuff, I know. Diana Thompson is suggesting neck, and the neck fit to the body has to be solid for good vibration and sustain. I agree with that. Like we were talking earlier about kit guitars, building a guitar, kind of the tolerances, and but how do you know that when you order a neck and a body? It's tough to know whether or not there's going to be a gap, or it's one of the great things about getting something like a Sir that never happens. So Dave Freedman was in the Variac camp in an interview when it comes to brown box versus Variac, et cetera, says Abracas One. Basically, you have more control. Nothing against the brown box, which he said is a cool unit. Yeah, Variac's always worked good for me. Probably one with the digital readout is cool. Probably just fine. Much cheaper, he says, than a brown box. Yeah, interesting. Hey, Pete, do you use the HX Sump into a power amp? I have. I've tried it. If so, do you use the amp models or just the preamp? I would use the full amp models, and then probably a solid state power amp like a Matrix or something. Yeah. What's the difference between, say, an SL68 and a good 69 Plexi? I love the demos. Very little. These amplifiers, honestly, you can make subtle tweaks to them. Like, okay, a huge difference is going to be when you get an SL68. I don't think still John is putting bright caps in them. And if you get a certain 69 Plexi, it's got a, whatever, 500 PF or whatever it is, bright cap in it. It's going to sound markedly different, more aggressive in the lower region, like more take your head off. And you might be like, oh, this Marshall is like, or you might be like, oh, I like the Sir because it's rounder. Put that same bright cap, which is literally one cap that costs like 30 cents, into the Sir, and it's going to sound all of a sudden, there it is. So there's these little things that can make this big difference. I've come to believe, like pretty firm believer, that as long as the transformers are in good shape, you can kind of make any old Marshall sound like a good one. Like as if it's unless like I've been hip to like things like voltage lately. Like Dave Freedman was talking about how the lower voltage ones he doesn't like as much from the later 70s with the rocker switches, but anything from kind of like 69 or 70 through like, or 1968 through like 75 or 76 is the higher voltage ones, and they can all kind of be tweaked and made to sound. It's like the Steve Vai Jose that I did the video on. That amp's from 74 or 75. It's not it's a PC board amp. It's not like anything particularly special. So it's all about values and components and stuff, and you can kind of tune them in like you would a car. It's an amp. It's not a guitar, It's not like, oh, it's this magic light piece of wood that you kind of can't, or something like, I don't know. The body on the guitar sounds amazing because it's light or this particular, it's like an amp's just a box of parts, I think, So something, the difference with the SL68 and the 69 Plexi, I mean, given we've done things at Freedman's where it's like, where I've been in his shop and he's had, his 68 Plexi. Recently, he had his 68 Plexi and a new Marshall SLP, or not an SLP, it was a 1987X. So one of those PC board ones you can get now, right? And he had his old 68 Plexi, and he did a few tweaks, mods on the new Marshall, and he had them on an amp switcher, and he was going back and forth. And they sounded a little different, but it wasn't like one was a better sound. The new amp had a little bit, it was a little more bold sounding, a little louder, and then his amp was a little squishier, but they both sounded really good. It was just like a slightly different take. I was like, wow, I could live with either of those tones. Actually, they both sound really good. So I think you can take a new SLP or a new 87X or get an SL68 or a SL67 if you want to go all the way and have the Variax switch and have it be point to point and all that stuff. You can take these amps and they can be massaged one way or another, and you can end up with that code has been cracked. I honestly think that, in my opinion. I've heard a lot of old Marshalls at this point. Brit's here. What you doing? Lauren and Brit are talking in the chat. What's happening? Do I own a Kemper? I do. I've had a Kemper for a long, long time, and it's cool. It's still cool, I use it for certain things. It's like a sampler, the Kemper. That's how I think about it. It's like if you've got a good sampler with good audio specs and you put a great sample in of a Steinway piano that's wonderful, it can sound great, and it's that thing. It's not quite the experience of playing a real Steinway in a room or whatever, but you can record with it and maybe end up with a really great result or whatever, It's like, it's cool. That's how I think of the Kemper. It's like a great sampler. Now, if you got shitty samples, it's going to sound awful. So it's really dependent on it lives and dies on the quality of the profiles that you use. That's what I think. So do I like a heavy or light super strat, says Alex. A lot of Sirs are 8 pounds plus, which is a little heavy for strat style. Wood's tough these days, man. It's tough, There's wood supplies. It is what it is. To be honest, I don't really feel like, okay, this guitar is completely reasonable for the weight, and it's just alder. If I pick up another one I've got here it's maybe heavier, and this is from a few years earlier, so I don't know. My black one that's got the Floyd on it that a lot of people love, it's heavy. It's a heavy ash. It's like the Van Halen guitar, and it's got a sound. It's got a great sound. And too light isn't a good thing. I think a light, like a medium weight guitar is probably best. Medium. My heavy Les Paul that's like 10 pounds plus, my custom, my black one, it's heavy, pretty heavy. It's not like a boat anchor Les Paul like some of them, but it's heavy enough. And that guitar's got a bottom end like no other guitar I have. It's got this, and I gravitate towards it for hard rock and stuff because of that. So it just sounds really good for loud rock and roll. Johnny Bean says Jason Becker and Richie Kotzen were awesome. I saw that Richie was he's doing a new show, and he had Jason on, so that's cool. I'd love to see that. I've gotten to know Richie a little bit over the last couple of years, and he's really nice. I like that guy a lot. He's a cool guy. Let's see here. Daryl says my Sir Pete Thorn is 7.7 pounds and Modern Saturn is 6.5. Wow, that's really light. I think those guitars are, what's the body on the Modern Saturn? Is it a Kume or something? I'm not 100% sure about that, but pretty light. Pete, thoughts on sanding next? Safe grit size? Geez, I don't know. That's Patrick Carroll. You just be careful. Go slow and maybe not too. That's a good question for John. I doubt he's still here, but like what to start with if you were sanding. Let me ask him. I don't know if he's probably not watching. We let go do some work or something, but I'll get him up here and we'll ask him. If you're sanding a neck, of course, Siri says if you're sanding in neck. If you're sanding a neck, what do I say? What grit size sandpaper would you start and finish with? See what he says. What would medium weight be for a super strat? I would say 8 pounds, something like that. You know, a strat that goes beyond 9 pounds is pretty heavy. I mean, for sure. But something that's 8, I like guitars to be 8 or 8.5 or, you know, between 8 and 9 seems like a nice weight. I don't like them too light. And a light guitar is nice, especially if it's an ash, swamp ash kind of guitar, you know, and I want that springy kind of sound. Well, we got 548 people online. That's awesome. Thanks for being here, guys. I appreciate it. Pete, it would be great seeing you with the Aradano Marshall and a borrowed Ibanez Universe playing some Violix. That's Daniel. Well, I think as close as I'm going to get is the video that you already saw. But I do love his style. I mean, I love his style. It's great. Cat Dumpling says, have you ever worked with Ian Thorn? I would love to see a collaboration video with you two. Have you seen the video where we did it, the Sir party? I'll find it for you here. Let me see here. Sir. We did some videos. Blowing Wide Open is probably the coolest one, but I'll just send you this link and then you'll find the other ones. Here you go. I'll put it down in the chat so you can check it out. This is like from the Sir party 2014. I just put it in the chat there. Yeah. I've never done any work with Ian really beyond that gig, jamming with him for a couple days when we did these gigs. But I'd love to, you know, love to do something with him someday. I'd love to do a song with him. I'd love to write a song with him and record it, actually. Just something, because he's great. And we've talked about it. Like, he batted it around at one point, and I did too. You know, it's just, I guess we have the time. Maybe I should hit him up and ask him if we can do something via the internet. Brent Morgan says, recommendation for first Sir amp, PT100 15IR SL68. Whew. Depends what you want. I mean, I would say the 15IR you're going to get the most versatility out of, for sure, because you can play it through headphones and, you know, you can get a ton of tones out of it and stuff. So if I could only have one, it would be that, to be honest. Yeah. Ram says, how do you like to EQ guitars and mixes? Where cut and boost? Generally speaking, all high pass. So like I'll cut everything below like 75 hertz usually. Maybe sometimes higher on solos. On solos, sometimes you can go up as high as like 120 or something if you're mainly playing up the neck, and it just cleans up the sound. If you want to clean up a guitar and make some room in the mix, low mids is, I mean, this is so arbitrary depending on the tone, right? But make sure there's not too much low mids going on between, say, 190, 160, 190, and say 400 hertz. So boost up a band there, move it around, see if it goes over the whole mix and kind of sounds like a cloud over everything. And then you can dip that a little bit, and it tends to clean up the guitar sound a little bit and just leave room in the mix for other things. And then as far as top end goes, if it's metal and you really want to cut through, or if you're trying to make something sparkle, it's like you can go up to 8K on like an SSL style and boost it up, and you'll find that a lot. Metal guys do that. Well, sometimes not. I mean, sometimes there's a nasty tone, a notchy thing that happens between like 2K and 4K, and you got to find that sound. There's like an irritating thing. I always find it's in there, and I'll boost the sound way up and find where it rings, kind of, and then I'll cut. Sometimes a steep cut there. And if I'm trying to get a solo to cut through, 2K is always like it's like the same thing as a human voice. It's like the upper mids, sort of, right, getting into treble. 2K, just give it a little subtle. It can be a dB or dB and a half at 2K, kind of a soft bump right there, or sometimes steeper, but usually pretty wide bump right at 2K. And all of a sudden you'll find you don't have to turn the guitar up in the mix. It just gets louder. So that's a secret that I do for sure. John Deshane is up there in the top chat. He says, "Hey Pete, dual delay, non-Strymon analog tape sounding suggestions." Non-Strymon analog tape. Dual delay. Well, there's some great ones in the H9. I like the vintage delay. It's not analog. There's an analog delay in there, and there's tape delay, I think. But the vintage digital is the one I always like in there, and then I'll just turn down the high end on it. What else? The DD500, I mean, pretty solid, or DD200 from Boss. You can get some great analog, darker things with one of those for sure, and dual delay. So I would say try one of those. Anything else? I think an analog tape that's not Strymon. Those are the ones that are coming to mind right now. Like a dual programmable kind of, try the DD stuff. It's the usual suspects, I guess. But the H9, DD500, that's what I have on my board. Ever meet Jeff Beck? Jeff, I have not. I don't think I've ever met Jeff. Would love to meet him at some point, but somebody's asking Sand for what? Oh, it's John asking. It's John asking Sand for what purpose? Take down the thickness or remove paint? Maybe both. What would you recommend? I'm just gonna say somebody asking on my live stream, so I'm not sure exactly. This is how we talk to each other all day via Siri into our phones. Who are your favorite players to steal licks from? That's a great question. Eddie Van Halen, probably number one. Steve Stevens. You can still, I saw this great thing Tim Pierce was talking about a while ago. Like, from any video you find on YouTube, don't feel overwhelmed that you can't absorb all the concepts and everything when someone's teaching you. Just take one little thing. I like that. So anytime you hear a lick on YouTube, it's like, get one little move out of it, and then it's not overwhelming. It's like, I learned something today. David wants to know, he says, love the channel, wants to know if I've ever used Positive Grid. I think I made a video for them a few years ago, and it sounded good. The amp sims with Celestion IRs. They asked me to specifically demo some of the new Celestion when they were including them IRs, and it sounded really good. So much good stuff these days, right? Oh, Line 6 Echo Park, Daniel's recommending to John. Tape Echo Modus to die for, very Echo Plexus. I agree. The Echo Park is probably one of the best cheap delays ever made. The analog is great too, because it's got the vibrato mod, so it does the edge thing so well, to be honest. I agree. Great, terrific delay pedal, the Echo Park, if you want something simple. John's not a fan of Boss, he said. I don't know. I mean, try DD200. It sounds great. I mean, they've been killing it for a while now, if you haven't tried them. So Richard says, with tomorrow being 3 years since we lost Chris Cornell passed away 3 years. I guess that's right. It's 16th today, isn't it? God, it's 3 years. Yeah, that's true. Or it's the 18th, right? That he passed away. So it's the 17th. Tomorrow being 3 years. The first thing that came to mind was the last time I saw him, which was he was he was in town to play with Cat Stevens. You can find the video of this day on YouTube. He played Wild World with Cat Stevens at the Ford Theater in LA. I think that's where it was. And so he was only in town for a couple of days, and he'd called me to say that his computer was screwing up and there's something wrong with the screen. And it turned out it needed to be replaced. And he was at the Beverly Hills Hotel, and he said, I don't know what to do because I got to do this gig tonight or whatever. And how am I going to get this damn computer fixed? And I said, don't worry about it. I'll come over and get it for you, and I'll go and take it. So I went to the Beverly Hills Hotel, drove over Coldwater Canyon, down the other side, pulled up. He came outside with the computer. And I remember I had a new car at that point, and I also had a new haircut. I'd cut my hair short, and was slicking it back and all that stuff. And he's like, "Oh, check out the new haircut and the new ride. Look at you," and kind of made fun of me. And and I just laughed, because he liked to poke fun and play practical jokes and poke fun at you and stuff like that. And I took the computer from him. We just shot the shit for like 5 minutes or whatever, and he looked great and gave me a hug, and he said, "Thank you so much for doing this." And I was like, "No problem. I know you're busy." And I took the computer and I ran it over to the Apple store in Sherman Oaks and dropped it off with them. And it's, for some reason, I remember that day really well, because I guess that's when the last time you see somebody. I don't know. But I remember going to the food court afterwards and getting lunch. It feels like yesterday, like taking the computer and they're dropping off, saying, "How soon can you get it back?" And it turned out, it was like 5 days, and they shipped it back to New York because he was there by then. But I dropped it off with them. They fixed it, and I remember getting lunch and stuff like that. And just, yeah, I remember that day really well. I don't know. It's weird, but that's my memory that I came up with when you said any memories. Him making fun of my new hair. Your new dad, wow, and like making jokes. He was like that. But it's a nice memory. I don't know. Like, it was a nice day, and I remember walking across the lawn at the Beverly Hills Hotel. I was parked on the side street there. If anybody ever goes to that hotel and you want to meet somebody, instead of having to pull in and park and do all the BS with paying $5 park or whatever, and you can just park on the side street and then something. So, anyways, I don't know how many of you are ever going to go to the Beverly Hills Hotel and meet somebody there, but if you do, it's a good trick. John Stitt is up there in the top chat, and he says he's talking about sandpaper. He's to start with 320 grit, end at 2000 grit, and polish pads from 2000 to 3000 grit. This is to work on a neck. Look into true oil or tongue oil as an option. So John replied. He says he starts with heavy files and moves on to a cushion bag sander, 100 grit. Step to 400 steel wool and sanding sponge for final spending on the finish. For painting, 220 is enough. Free cut gold sandpaper, final sanding. That's a lot of info. I don't know what any of it means, but it sounds like good info. I'm going to read it one more time, and you can write it down if you want to. I start with heavy files and move on to cushion bag sander, 100 grit, and step up to 400 grit and steel wool and sanding sponges for final spending on the finish. Maybe he meant to say standing on the finish. Siri screwing things up. For painting, 220 is enough. Free cut gold sandpaper for final sanding. It's all Greek to me, but I'm a happy reader of information. I better say thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. Daniel says he loved the performance with Cornell in Argentina at the Pepsi Music Festival thing. Yeah, I remember that gig really well. That Les Paul Custom delivered that day. Yeah, that was a fun gig. I don't know. I remember that gig really well. It was 2007. A lot of people, 25,000 people, I think, or something like that at the festival. It was a great crowd. Todd says, "Sorry you lost a buddy, Pete." I know, man. It's tough, eh? That's life. We all go through it, and loss is a part of living, isn't it? It doesn't make it any easier, but it's rough. Freddie B says, "I cried like a baby when I heard about his passing. You think I knew the man?" A lot of people did, man. It just didn't seem right, did it? I mean, whether or not you knew the guy, it just seemed shocking. John Stitt says he's out of here, people. See you, man. Take care. Take care. Difficult artist story. I can't think of any right now. I want to keep it positive. That was West Tone. Difficult artist story. Difficult artists. No, I don't know. I've played with plenty of people that are challenging, but you just kind of that's part of the gig, trying to navigate that and give them what they want, I don't know. Let's see here. Ever bought a pedal, tried to like it or find useful sound only because it looked cool? Says iMaster, and then maybe wasn't cool. It's been a long time, to be honest, since every now and then you plug in a pedal and you're like, I cannot get a sound out of this thing. And I don't want to, once again, I try to keep my channel really positive, so I don't like trash anybody, but there's been a few where I'll try them and they seem like, I'm like, I can't get a sound out of this thing, or it's just noisy or something, I remember a flanger in particular that I tried a while ago, and I was like, I can't get a sound out of this thing that beat my MXR, my Van Halen flanger. And anyways, can I play the blue DG335, says Todd. Yes, I don't have anything hooked up here right now, though, to plug it into, though. So I'll use it in a video. A lot of people have been commenting about it. So why don't I record? I'll do something with it today, and then I'll get it up soon. Stealth Parrot says, I always thought the best part of Billy Idol was the Steve Stevens guitar riffs. I agree. I mean, I love Steve. But the neat thing about Billy Idol and Steve was it was really a combination of Steve being into rock and roll, Jimmy Page and stuff, but also King Crimson and Steve Howe and his prog rock kind of leanings. And then you combine that with Billy and his punk rock, and you ended up with this awesome thing that was really sort of the dawn of, it was like this mix of punk and new wave that came, it's chemistry like anything. It's a big part of, like, when you listen to Flesh for Fantasy or something, I mean, that's Steve Stevens, man, you're hearing, and Billy, it's equal parts. And it was so cool, that sound was so modern and different and exciting, and I don't know, chemistry's cool. Yeah. Don recommending, he says, if you're trying to slim the neck, there's always a danger of hitting the truss rod. So not for the faint of heart. So be careful when you're sanding your necks out there. Any advice you've gotten over the years that was really impactful and important? The number one piece of advice I've gotten that's impactful and important is, if you try and buck reality, you get pain every time. That's number one in life. What happens when you try and buck reality? If you're not seeing the situation for what it really is and being honest about it, this could be work, it could be relationship of any sort. If you try and buck reality, sugarcoat it, ignore it, dress it up, you get pain every time because it's brutal, and so that's the number one thing. Okay. Chris playing Ticket to Ride is the greatest of all time, says Smutty Swims. It is great, isn't it? That's the one where I went and got him the looper pedals, and then he used the loopers on the end, and I was like, oh my God, like, he's like, can you find me a cool looper pedal? And I did. And they were Digitech Jam Mans, and then he used them on the end of Ticket to Ride, as well as on other songs and stuff. He's used them for all kinds of stuff. But I always remember that because he'd only had it for a couple of weeks, and then I went to the show and saw what he did with them, and I was like, oh, that's cool. It's great. One of the songbook, that era, one of those gigs. Got a Tele with P90s and EMG 81 with push-pull to attenuate from mid-position. Got some subtle noise and ghost tone only in the mid-position. Stellar sound. Any fix for the difference in impedance? I assume that this is the number. Difference in impedance because you got a P90 and an EMG 81 in the same guitar. That's a good question for somebody like John. That's above my pay grade. I mean, when you got an active pickup and a passive pickup in a guitar, I don't think I've ever heard of anybody doing that. I'm not really a tech that can answer that. Sorry. But I've never tried to do that. I don't think I've ever seen that, like a a P90 and an EMG in the same guitar. Byron K says Steve Stevens on Vince Neil's first CD has great licks. Of course, I listened to it for the first time a couple weeks ago because I'd never heard it, but it is cool. It's cool to hear him just loose and playing like hard rock context, all raw, like no synths and stuff. Okay, Patrick says the purpose of sanding the neck would be to make it smoother, mimicking a satin neck. I assume it's finished now and you want to sand it down. I think the person just wants to make it a satin feel, maybe from a painted. So we'll see what he does. See if he responds and what he would use for that. Yeah. Let's see here. I was asking before what pedal you can't say much about. Says Mick Corner. Are you talking about the stir pedal that I was trying? Oh, well, I can't say much about it because it hasn't come out yet. Or it's not a Sir pedal. It's a pedal that I was at Sir with and showing them just because I was like, check out this pedal. It's cool. But I'll have a demo coming out in a couple weeks. It's a neat pedal. It's really cool. I'll tell you on the live stream when I bring it out, or when I do the video for it. Bring it out. It's not me bringing it out. It's somebody else. Jennifer Batten's here. What's up? Oh my God. I hope you're still here. You were here a few minutes ago at 1:04 p.m. She's an old friend, one of the first people I met in LA, really. And we go way, way, way back. Wow, it's great to have you here. Say something if you're still here so that I know you. We should do the show together sometime. You want to do my show? I've been having guests on. It's been really fun. I'd love to do that. So I'll send you an email after this. But somebody's asking if I subscribe to Tom Bukovac yet. I have. It's really great. His what's he call it? I can't remember the name of Tom's. What's he calling it every day? He does these terrific. Somebody say it in the chat there. But anyway, he's doing some terrific guitar lessons every day where it looks like he's in his garage, and he shows us all these great licks. He's a terrific guitar player. Okay, John says via you want to make your next satin. Says you'd have to understand if there's a tint, since there's a danger going through the tint, but generally gray Scotch Brite, not the green or brown. Go lengthwise and finish with a little lemon pledge sprayed on a cloth. He likes to wipe the strings a little too with the pledge. Interesting. So gray Scotch Brite, not green or brown. Go lengthwise, finish with a little lemon pledge. So to take your neck from a painted to a satin kind of feel. I think he's just basically saying keep the paint but rough it up a little bit and then finish up with the polish. Sounds good to me. Okay, let's see down on the bottom of the chat here. Teammate says, hey everybody, hope everybody's staying well and groovy. Good to have you here, man. Homeschooling, that's it. That's Tom Bukovac's thing he's been doing every day. He's great little guitar lessons every day, showing us cool licks and stuff. He's fantastic. Let's see. Chris Post says, hey, Pete, I'm pretty certain on a PT15IR I will get to play one soon, but then I start to think I should get an SL68. Well, it just depends what you're doing. The SL68 is terrific. It's a loud beast. It's got a great master volume, but it's not quite the same, using it. It is really good, though. Just the, turning down the post-phase inverter master, and it takes the negative feedback out of the circuit, and the presence kind of becomes inactive at that point. Everything changes a little bit, but it's a great master volume. And if you play at any kind of reasonable volume most of the time, the SL60 is fun. It's kind of nothing like, I don't know what it is. It's just intangible when you play an old Plexi. If that's what you want, it's got a sound, and it's hard to get past that. But the PT15 is so versatile and comes so close to that sound. As a matter of fact, I made a video on it where I compared them. It's not exactly the same. And some people actually in the video, they preferred the PT15 sound. It just depends what you want. But if I could only have one, I would have the PT15, but I would really miss having an SL68 too, because I just love those amps. 67 is so good. I'm getting a 67, by the way, because I love them so much. So it's a 50 watt, a little different feel. While waiting to purchase a 212 for the PT15IR, would you recommend me swapping a Greenback 75 in my current box? There's a V30 in there now. Yes. It sounds so much better to me. A V30 by itself, for anything that's, a V30 is okay for really high gain amps that are darker. That's what I think. A high gain dark amp, if it's a Bogner or, something that's a little bit, the high gain with a V30 that's a dark, it's got to be a darker kind of thing. And they work great with Bogners, because they need that upper mid thing to kind of, it's all a balance, it's all a formula, right? But to me, a Greenback is the right speaker for something like the PT15 or anything more Marshall. It's got some toothy upper mids going on. And the V30 just, to me, it's, a Greenback sounds great, like clean to dirty. Greenback 75 in particular. Okay. Looking through the chat here. Maybe Jennifer jetted. I didn't see her in the bottom of the chat here. Maybe she's still here. I don't know. Anyways, she's great. Where to put the tremolo pedal on a wet dry board? Well, I would put it before. If the tremolo is the kind of thing that you want to be able to mix 100% wet, or it always sounds weird to me having the dry signal in there. And then, you can kind of make it work, but not really. It doesn't really work. So make sure the tremolo is kind of before you go wet dry. Christian saying, do I know Reb Beach? Notice the last couple shows I did sound for them. He played the same guitars you have. Sirs. Yeah. I've met Reb recently when I did a clinic at his local music shop, which is in Stuff Music in Pennsylvania. He had just stopped in the store to get a pedal, and he didn't even know I was going to be there, but we met each other that day, and he was very nice. We ended up chatting for a while, and he was a super cool guy, and what a great guitar player. I love his guitar playing. And he uses PT100s actually for a number of years. I think he's back to using the custom audio style one, like the old version, but he had the blue ones out for quite a while on tour and stuff. So he's used my amps for quite a while. Stephen Douglas is asking if I've ever met Shane. Now, how do you say his last name? I want to pronounce it right. It's like a French last name, right? Theriot. I hope I'm saying it right. I don't know how exactly. I feel so stupid. Exceptionally versatile player with great tone. I've never played with him. No, I haven't. Patrick Carroll says, thanks, Pete and John, for the neck finish sanding recommendations. I'm okay with losing the tint. It's a 2001 1960 reissue Ebony Les Paul Classic. Yeah, go at it with the John's recommendations there for the Scotch Bright or whatever, right? And gray one, he said, I think, right? I hope getting that right. Okay, heading down to the bottom of the chat here. Chris says he loves greenbacks. Me too. Bogner's also work great with the Classic 80. That makes sense to me. Yeah. I know they used to use the speaker like combined with a V30, right? In a cabinet, I think sometimes a mix. Have you ever played the Victory amps? No, not really. I heard some Cornfords, which is the precursors, right? I've tried the Victory pedals, and I like that Kraken one. I think that's the Rabia pedal, isn't it? But that was my favorite for kind of like a modern distortion, similar to the Synergy thing, where you can kind of use it in your amp's effects loop and replace your amp's preamp with it. It's like an all-tube high voltage kind of pedal that you can use as a tube preamp. So I like that. So I've played that a little bit. Yeah. What are the black and white 70-watt Celestions called? They're like 3/4 white and the rest are black. Aren't those the 7080s or something, or G12M 70s? Let's see here. Somebody's recommending the Celestion Ruby Red Alnico. I agree. That's a really good sounding speaker. They do nice sounding high power speakers now. They figured that one out, I think, because I mentioned a while ago that I really like the Alnico Cream too, and it's a 100-watt Alnico speaker. And I always think, the traditional thing, high powered speaker, it doesn't have as much mojo, and you need to drive it hard with the amp, and that means you need to hit it with 100 watts to really get it to, not these, not so. I think they've figured out how to make a good high power speaker that has some great tone. So oh, you're saying the Ruby Red Alnico. I thought the red back is a different speaker, isn't it? Maybe the Ruby Red Alnico is that a speaker? The Ruby Red, I thought they had the red back and then the cream back, which was their high power Alnico, but you might be right. Ruby Red Alnico. Can't keep it all straight in my brain. Steve Vai did a 2-hour video on where to place pedals. It's an amazing, informative video, says Arthur. Yeah, I remember that. Pedal order. What pickups are in the red guitar? Any chance of being a new model? This guitar has the V63s in the here and here. This is something I'm experimenting with, and I'm not going to tell you right now. Nope, not going to tell you. Just wanted to try something different in the bridge on this guitar, so I'm experimenting. But you never know. We're always trying to move forward with different pickups and all that. So, but I definitely want to do more with guitars. I will say that, like down the road. Just exactly what I won't say, but definitely want to go places with the guitars. I love my current PT signature model. It's awesome, but we gotta, keep expanding and stuff like that. Why not? So thinking about different things to do. Do I like the EVH 5150 amps or PV 5150? Yes, I do. I had a PV 5150, the original one when it came out. It was a Van Halen nut, so I got that when it came out. Mine was so old that it came with the Phillips tubes. I mean, they were still putting US tubes in them back then. So I got one right after they came out, and I used that amp quite a bit for gigs. That was kind of my rig when I started gigging in LA. Was the 5150, and I used the classic, the channel 1, like the kind of lower gain channel. It was kind of like a crunchy channel. I used that most of the time. It wasn't the high gain channel because I was playing, in a cover band doing like Free and songs like that, So now the 5150 I used, as I mentioned earlier, I had that original white 5150 amp I used on the road with Chris Cornell for most of 2007. I had one out, at least the latter half of 2007. That was my main kind of crunch sound. So the blue channel in particular, I really liked on that amp. For me, the red channel, at least back then, I don't know what they sound like now, but it was a little bit like a lot of gain and kind of MIDI. Not a bad thing. Like just kind of like for me, the blue channel was a little more classic sounding and worked really well for me. And I did like it. Let's see here. Have I tried car amps? Slant 6V. I used to use in the studio a little bit. It was a good amp, like nice clean channel and nice drive channel. It's a good channel switcher that had a versatile, versatile thing going on for sure. But car Slant 6V. New Celestion 35-watt Ruby speaker is Alnico with full red frame. Okay, 35-watt Alnico. So kind of in the middle of between an Alnico Gold and an Alnico Blue. Right. Forgot about that. They came out with that this year. That's what happens when you miss NAMM. And I did. I remember. I haven't tried it. So love the V63. I agree. I mostly used V60 LPs, but this V63 and this guitar, it's exceptionally stratty and good sounding. I like them both. I do. Let's see what else we got here. I'm gonna go pretty soon. It's 1:29, so I've been going for 2 hours, so probably time to split pretty soon. Somebody's asking what acoustic guitars I own. I've got a Talcum Mini that I love. That's in the other room. I've got Martin that's hanging back there on the wall that you can see behind me. D28. I've got a Gibson Sheryl Crow that's basically it's like a country western, like a 60s country western model. Really cool. I got a Gibson J180. These are guitars you guys probably never seen that are in my storage right now, but they're really good touring acoustics. I've got a Washburn that was custom made for me a long time ago by them. I've got a Taylor 12 string that I love. That's my only 12 string acoustic, but it's fantastic. I don't need another one because it's awesome. And I've got a Larrivee that's like a Dreadnought, D28 style kind of guitar. I love that thing too. I think that's all my acoustics. Oh, I got a nylon string, a Godin. That's like a plug-in nylon one. Oh, I have a Chet Atkins too that I haven't. It's been in my storage forever. A great guitar. It's a more of the solid body plug-in. Terrific tone actually plugged in. It sounds really good. Imagine if I added an IR to it, like one of those Sigma ones or whatever. It would probably sound exceptional. Matthew Kennedy is up in the top chat. He says, "Is there any favorite tour memories you have, or anything left on your musical bucket list with all the cool gigs you've done?" And I always want to do more. Thanks, man. He says, "Thanks for spreading, hoping you spread positivity so we can gig again soon." Thanks. I always look forward to just playing. I want to get back to Japan and play again. I really miss it. I love that place. So it's like, I don't know what it is, but it's like my home away from home. Sometimes it feels more like home than California to me. Like I could live there easily and kind of enjoy it. I don't know if I'd always feel that way. Maybe I'd be there 4 years and go, but I don't know. I love it. So I miss playing there, and I want to get back there and play again because I love the people there and I love everything about it. Actually, well, not everything. Some things are challenging, but I love that place. I mean, it's probably my favorite country to go to. So, but more musical stuff. Favorite tour memories. Oh God, dude. I mean, some of the times we've had, like all the way from the van tours I did back in the early days. I remember so many funny times. With, young bands like out on the road, crazy times, hotel room destruction. I remember like touring with Chris, like the Project Revolution tour was so much fun, which was the Linkin Park's tour that we were on. And it was like 2 months of summer camp. Like we just had the best time, all the bands and everybody hanging and stuff every day. And it was a really hot summer, and it was like, just, I don't know, what a life. I mean, we were just out, like, just play big rock shows and basically play big rock shows and party every day and just have fun. I don't know how else to describe it, but I had my bike out on that tour. And so you get to a venue and you wake up in the morning in the parking lot of some shed outside of a town. So it didn't matter kind of what city you were in. It's like, where are we? I don't know. Every day's Groundhog Day. You wake up and you're in another parking lot at a venue, but like the shed, like Verizon style amphitheater or whatever. And it was a festival. So there would be like lots of food stands and bands playing earlier in the day and stuff. And I had a bike. So put it on the crew truck, I remember, and I would ride the bike around and people would be like, how'd that guy get a bike in here? But it was like, it was so much fun. I could just ride around and go see your friends over on the B stage or whatever, wherever, and hang out. I just remember, making food every day. Somebody have a barbecue out and they'd be cooking, and it was just a blast, man. I'd be like, oh, it's shit, 7:15. We got to go on in 15 minutes. And you go play your 45-minute set and rock out in front of, 20,000 people or whatever, and then get off stage and take a shower, or go out and watch Linkin Park or whatever, and have fun with your pet. Great. Looking forward to doing it again at some point. I don't know if it'll be like that again exactly, but I hope so. Maximilian is saying, does your right hand index finger ever wear down from picking or strumming? Yes. And actually, I don't have that going on right now. For the first time in ages, I kind of have a normal nail on that hand. This one always gets at an angle because I haven't actually been playing that much. Like I've been doing other things and like completing some videos and things like that, but I'm not like gigging and smashing my hand into the guitar right now because we haven't been touring. So, yeah, I got a nail finally. I noticed that the other day. I was like, oh, I haven't seen that look like that for 10 years or something, So anyways, would an A-type and a greenback be a good mix in a 412? Maybe if you want a real kind of like a warm kind of thing, I would probably put the greenbacks in the bottom and the A-types in the top. Might be cool, for an extra vintage kind of sounding, because the A-type does sound really good distorted. I think it's like a worn in greenback, and it's got no harshness to it. It's a great speaker if you don't like fizz. So really good. Peter Evans is up there in the top chat, and he says, Killer Sunday show, already hit the thumbs up. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. Hey, I thank all you guys for being here. This is the first one I've done in 3 weeks without a guest. I will get some more guests on. It's not going to be every week, I don't think, but occasionally I'm going to do the guest thing because it's fun. And it's so easy to do with this since I've discovered this StreamYard thing. And it seems to work so well without hiccups. So I'll talk to some folks and see if I can get some more guests lined up. And I appreciate you all being here. I do. Down to the bottom of the chat, just a couple more things here. Yeah. What do we got here? Is the cab for the PT15IR a 212 or 112? We have both. That's from Bruno. There's a 112 with a Celestian Greenback 75 in it, and there's a 212 with a Greenback and a V30 blended, which I find is a nice blend in that particular cabinet. So we have both. Yeah. Anybody else here? I remember seeing Slaughter in '91 on the Kiss tour, and they were on bikes riding around the venue. Yeah, it's fun. If you you throw it on the truck, bring your bike, and then you can kind of get around. If the venue is close to anything, you can take off on the bike and go. It's good exercise. It's like it's a great way to spend your time. When you're on tour and you don't have a car, great way to get around. It's really cool if there's room on the truck. The crew was like not stoked about us putting the bikes on there, and I was like, "Come on," and they're like, "Oh, Jesus, all right." And then they let us do it. And it was me and the drummer had the bikes, and it was cool. Rick DeVita is up there in the top chat. He says, 1 penny for every time I watched the original PT100 demo from 10th grade until now. How old are you now? Are you 60 years old now? I'm getting old, man. Patrick Carroll says, not trying to piggyback off 2 questions, but Ben mentioned I gave him an idea to do a string changing video. Can you ask him at some point if he still plans on making that? I'll do a string change video and a setup video. I want to do that on how I do my BS way of setting up a guitar, but basically just like setting saddle height and stuff like that, and then how once you get the saddles where you want them, the main thing is, I don't want to give up the whole video here, but the main thing is, the only thing that changes really is the neck changes, right? Because nothing else is the saddles aren't going to go up and down. So if your guitar action changes, don't change it here once you got it set, and if it was set and the guitar is playing great, all you really need to do is tweak the neck, the truss rod. You got to check your intonation every now and then too. But beyond that, it's mainly once you get that action set, the most important thing is the nut height, bridge set, right? And then if you get the truss rod set and you get the guitar set up and feeling good, now you're home free, And not much to it beyond that as far as maintenance goes, just a little bit. What kind of bike did I have? It was a mountain bike that I borrowed from my roommate at the time. It's kind of a beater. I'd love to get a new bike, by the way. So anybody got any recommendations? I don't want to spend a lot of money, but I need to get a new bike, I think. Regarding Japan, have I ever seen a murder hornet? No, I never saw a murder hornet in Japan, but there are some gnarly bugs over there. Cicadas are amazing over there. They're cool though, but they're super loud in the trees. Yeah. Ben Coombe says, thanks for everyone that tuned in today. I agree. Thanks for y'all being here. Lauren says I should get Jennifer Batten. He's been telling me that forever. It's true. I guess that's true. Yeah, I gotta hit her up. I'm gonna send her an email and see if she wants to be a guest. I'd love to do that. We can talk about her Michael Jackson touring days and talk about her awesome solo work. And she's a great guitar player. Touring with Jeff Beck. Talk about somebody that's met Jeff Beck. She played with Jeff for a long time. I want to talk to her about that. It'd be cool. Hey Pete, have you tried the new Synvertech Drive number 5 Plus? Why, I have one right here. Look at that thing. Wow, it's a lot of knobs and switches. It's a little daunting, but I have to make a video for it, so it's coming soon. Basically what he does is he tries to make a distortion pedal that you can use into almost any amplifier and fine tune. It's got full EQ, the switch. Look at all those switches. You can just tune it in to whatever sound that you're going for, and he goes all out. So he makes great drive pedals. The dude really knows guitar tone. I love the knobs, by the way, that he uses on the pedals. Look at these things. They look like, it'd be cool on an amp. They're really, and the pots, I don't know, they feel expensive, man. It feels almost like studio console, like the pots. He doesn't screw around. He doesn't scrimp when it comes to quality. Sound City amps, SE30, have you tried? No, I think that's Stephen Fryatt's newest amp venture. I have not tried it, but he generally makes pretty damn good sounding amps. Let's see here. I have your signature Suhr guitar and I enjoy playing it so much. One question, please. The neck in single coil. I really don't get a true single coil sound. Any suggestions? It's a humbucker. I mean, it depends how picky you are. I think it does a pretty great approximation, but it's a completely different kind of setup, right? Like, you know, on a Strat, the pole pieces are the magnets. And so the way the pickup is designed is completely different when you've got a humbucker with a bar magnet underneath pole pieces there. So, you know, it's only going to get so close. And if you feel like you need a true single coil, then you need a true single coil. You know, you kind of can't have your cake and eat it too. You can to some degree, because I think it does a great, I think it splits well and does a nice approximation, but it's never going to go all the way, which is why I have different guitars too. Sometimes I want single coil, you know, hence down the road, you may see this from me in some way, shape, or form. Pete, tubes inside pedals, your take? Well, I just did that most recent video for this Hagerman, and I think if you watch this, it's got an EF86 in it, and it is ripping sounding, man. This is a great sounding pedal. It's some people in the comments, you know, a couple people were like, "Oh, whoa, it sounds like every overdrive." No, it doesn't. You know, it does not. Listen to how dynamic it is and how it sounds like a part of the amp. And you can really hear it too in the part where I'm boosting my PT15 with it in the video and hitting it with this, and you can hear the tone of the pedal clearly, maybe even more than in front of the distorted sound. Listen to it pushing the clean channel into a slightly edgy, crunchy sound. And it's a neat sound, man. I mean, a true tube, I don't know. I like the Space Charge too. That's another great pedal and they have a new version now that I'm doing a video on soon from Crazy Tube Circuits. It's got a tube in it, and it sounds really good to me too. So, you know, it's a 400 milliamp 9-volt, so fairly high milliamp sort of power is what it needs. Center positive, I should say. So it's a little wacky with that. You need the center positive power supply, which is different than most. But it's got a voltage doubler in it or something, so it's bumping the voltage up, and, you know, supposedly the tube's working. It sounds like it's high voltage tube, you know, like with headroom and all that good stuff. So give it a try. Yeah. Let's see. Okay, all the way to the bottom of the chat here. Hello, Pete from Rhode Island. What's up, Lawrence? Thanks for being here. Sean Tubbs would be great too. I agree. I'd love to have Sean Tubbs on my show at some point. He's really cool. Oh, there's somebody up there in the top chat. It's Mike. He says, ever use the UAD unison channel strips for guitar? Sure, because I have a signature plugin. So that's where I would use the PT 100 plugin from Brainworks. Is in the unison strip. It works great. Very super duper low latency. And if you haven't tried a PT 100 plugin, give it a go and tell me what you think. I think it's amazing. It might be the best sounding plugin made in the world, I think, for guitar. It's seriously, it's awesome. They did a great job on it. And there's a bunch of my signature presets in there too. At least 5, I think, signature presets from me. One of them, if you wanted the starting place, if you do try it, try the demo of it and just hit the PT 3-channel basic or 3-channel all or something it's called. You'll see it in there with my name on it. And that's like, I set up all 3 channels the way that I would use them mainly for a good cross section of tones. Give it a try. Tell me it's not awesome. You can't, because it is. No, it's a really, really good sounding plugin. And I was mentioning I tried UA Luna this week, which is their new DAW, and there's a few limitations to it that things like you can't group edit drums yet, and a few basic things, some MIDI stuff that's a little, but beyond that, the sound, shit, man, does it ever sound good? It's got this great sound because it's got the Neve summing and the tape stuff built in, and it really sounds like, it's like, wow, this is a little more like mixing through a Neve board or something. Like, it's got a great sound to it that just lends itself to rock and roll kind of. So it's got a creamy mid-range to it. That's for the, you know, for working in a DAW. It's like, wow, this is great for rock music. It's great for what I do. That's for sure. So Unison and Luna is seriously good, says BV Ninja. Yeah. If you try the new Luna recording application, it bundles. It's basically like Luna and Console, if anybody's familiar with UA, is all in the same program now. So you don't have to go back and forth between, like, say, Logic and Console for your input strips and stuff. Those that don't record won't know what we're talking about. But basically, it's just like an easy, you know, everything's all in one there, in one mixer, kind of like I would be on a mixer. or your inputs and your returns and everything, and your output of your recorder are all in the same. It makes a nice workflow, and supposedly lower CPU hit and stuff like that too. Evidently. Does the value of capacitor on your tone pot make a difference if you keep your volume wide open for the most part? I don't know about the value of the cap, if that's what does it, or if whether a tone control is 250K or 500K or whatever, if that's the thing, or 300K. But a tone control does put, generally speaking, a bit of load on the guitar. So in other words, like if you're going right from the pickup to the volume pot straight out to the jack, if you put a tone control in line, generally it's going to slightly dull the sound. It's going to have a little bit of an effect on the sound. You'll find that on just about any guitar. Now, this guitar has a no-load tone pot, and that's something that I've just discovered recently, that John has a weighted wire guitar, so that if the tone control is all the way on 10, the tone is out of the circuit, and it's as though it was going through the volume straight to the back. If you turn the tone down just a little bit, then the tone kicks in. So you can get a no-load tone pot if you want. Some people like the sound of the tone control being in line, though. They don't want the no-load thing because they might be used to it. I mean, most guitars that have a tone control, Les Paul, anything that's got a tone control on it in line, it's affecting the sound. And if you disconnect the tone control, you will notice that the sound opens up a little bit, and that could be a good or bad thing depending on your guitar and what you're used to. Now, I think it's more at when the tone's all the way up. I think it's more the effect of the pot than it is the cap that's doing that. So you're asking about the cap in particular. I think the tone of the cap more comes into play as you're rolling down, and then the cap's got an effect. So hopefully that all makes sense. Stuck around for a while longer because we have a whole bunch of good questions here at the end. Good caps can really open it up, says Arthur. I don't know about when it's on 10. I do like the idea of the no-load tone pot on this particular guitar. So I'm going for a slightly kind of hot rod thing on this guitar. Petty John Chime, any thoughts looking for something different than a typical overdrive? I like that pedal. I did a video on it if you want to take a listen. It's the best way to probably get my opinion on it. Just watch the demo I made for it. I think I did a demo for the Chimes a long time ago now, but the highest gain amp I own. Somebody's asking about the highest gain amp I own. Well, the PT100 with the boost on in front is pretty damn high gain with the MOSFET boost. I do have, I don't think that Laboga back there is any more high gain than, if I had a 5150 here or something, that would be pretty high over Soldano, but I don't. But I have the synergy back there, and I've got a synergy, but the accuracy, the Engel Savage, and got a bunch of the high gain modules there, the SLO. So as far as what's in this room right now, probably the SLO on the super gainy channel, fairly high gain. David Johnson's up in the top chat. He says, just began my venture into recording at home, learning on the fly, MacBook Pro and UA Aero. Okay, PT15 amp, getting great tones from that basic setup. Awesome. That sounds like a great setup, like simple, just plug the amp right in, right? Direct and into the Aero and pull up some drums. I wonder what you're using for a DAW. You could use Logic Drummer and lay down a bass track and you could cut a whole record that way. It's good. It's good, simple setup. UA Aero is great. Simple, good interface. Earlier there was a question on Talcum power. Said Bruce Black, we were talking about stuff to use in your hands, and I found this stuff I forgot I had called Dry Glide. It's like a talcum kind of stuff, but specifically for guitar. Bruce says he uses it on hot, humid gigs for his left neck hand. It works well for him, just enough to take the sweat or the stick off. Comes from my rock climbing days. Interesting. Wow, you're a more adventurous soul than me. But somebody was asking a question about aux earlier. And Robin DeLeon is asking about it now. I like the aux a lot, and I have it here, and I've been meaning to get it back up and going because I haven't used it for a little bit, but I want to, so I'm going to hook it up and get it in, get it going again. I run out of it I use the digital out on it, So I got to make sure that's working and stuff. It can be a little bit. I got to go through a converter. For some reason, I don't know why, but UA on the aux, they've got the RCA style jack for the digital out, the SPDIF out. And then on their interfaces, it's Toslink. So it's more like that, which I hate the Toslink. I don't know why. That's the one thing I really don't like. The Toslink has the cable doesn't lock in and it pulls out all the time. And I don't know what the advantage, there must be some advantage to it, but because of that, you need a converter. So I've got this Toslink to SPDIF converter that I found. If anybody needs one, I found it on Amazon for $15. And it's a little powered converter that you plug in, and it allows you to SPDIF to Toslink basically. And it works perfect, but it's a little dodgy because if the cable jiggles around, I hear it digital doing weird stuff in my. Anyways, I've got to make sure that's all working. Well, your question, I'm completely ignoring. Sorry about that. Boss tube amp expander or UA aux box. Whatever works for you, man. I mean, I know Steve Stevens has really been enjoying using the tube amp expander. And the aux box they're both good kind of upper end solutions, I guess, to the whole thing. As far as I don't know. I haven't messed with the tube amp expander enough to really give you a solid, awesome opinion, like an informed opinion, mainly for home recording metal tones. I think it's sort of apples to apples, to be honest. I think it would depend. If there's a certain cabinet you like in the tube amp expander, or a certain cabinet you like in the aux, because the aux, of course, you can't. The one thing about the tube amp expander is, of course, it's got IRs that you can load IRs into it. So you're going to have that option there to be able to do that. Whereas with the aux, it's kind of the proprietary cabinets but they've got everything in there now. Ever since they did the V30 cabinet, they've got V30s and greenbacks and blues and everything. So you should be able to make them both work and do a great job with both of them. No load pot probably works a bit like a blower switch, says Matt. Well, it's on the tone pot though, not on the volume. A blower switch takes the blower switch was the thing that Tom Anderson used to have, I think, an answer, and you could hit it and then it would be pick up straight to the output. So it would take the volume pot out of the equation. With the no load pot, it's just the tone pot. So it's not going to be exactly the same as that. I wonder if you could do the same thing like a no load volume. I have no idea. It's a good question for Sir. Good question for Sir. But I wouldn't know that. Jennifer said yes. Oh, did she? I didn't see her here in the chat. Okay, so Jennifer wants to do my show, my little old show. I'm honored. She's great. She's so nice. Like I say, oh, Yogi's here. What's up, Yogi? At least he was here at 1:45 a few minutes ago. How are you, bud? My old bandmate. I was telling stories from the Project Revolution tour earlier, Yogi. Didn't we have fun on that tour? Remember, I had my bike out. We had a good time on that tour. Good old time. Yogi and I, man, we've been through the trenches. I can remember doing 48-hour bus ride with Yogi from Norway to Italy. That's a long way. 48 hours on a bus with no internet, no phone, nothing to do. Remember that drive? Remember when Corey got pissed off and got off the bus and the bus driver was freaking out and Corey was like, yeah, what are you going to do? Drive away? Oh, we had some fun. All right, back to the bottom of the chat here. Sorry, I'm going all over the place at the end here. I think I've had too much coffee. There's an alternative, that says Lauren, to aux and TAE, 2 notes captor X. There's also the Sir reactive load, of course. Many great options out there for recording these days. Pete, how do you travel your guitars touring? Generally speaking, when you're on tour, your guitars are going to go in a truck. So you either got them in a vault where they're all like a great big box, right, that you pull the front off of, and there's a bunch of guitars all lined up in there, all strapped in, and that big thing rolls on and off the truck, or you got them in individual cases. And the last tour I did, I had individual cases. I didn't have that many guitars, and they just put them out on one of those guitar racks that kind of like what's back there. There's and you can't see it really, but that's a road case that folds up, but it's got 6 guitars in it all, and yeah, your guitars will go in a truck. They got to get there somehow. I speak cartridge. So your guitar will fly on an airplane, and go to wherever they're going and get shipped to the first date. Or sometimes if it's a fly date or something, you'll just fly the guitars yourself and deal with getting them there. Ken Kutbayan says, do you like Saraceno's playing? He's awesome, man. I've always liked his playing. He's great phrasing, super punchy, cool, exciting lines. Kind of actually sort of reminds me of Steve Stevens a little bit in some ways, He's got his own thing going on, but have this similar great way of playing rock and roll, blues-based rock and roll. It's just cool, kind of high octane, never too shreddy. That's one thing I love about blues and Steve. It's like there's great musicality to it, and I think they both appreciate kind of distorted martial tones in a cool way. But blues is he's a great guy too. He's studio not far from where I used to live, not far from here really. Sorry, his home and studio, I guess. And I've gotten to know him recently and he's really nice. He's really complimentary towards me and my playing. He compliments me a lot on my Instagram posts, and I think it's so kind. I remember him he was probably around the same age as me, maybe a little bit older, a couple of years older than me, but he was like a inspiration, because he was doing so well when I was coming up. I was like, yeah, I want to be like that. Like he was like, in the late 80s, early 90s, he was like an inspiring dude to see doing his thing. And I always liked his playing very much. I did. Great tone, always good tone. Stealth Parrot says long session today. Yeah, I should split, you guys. I should split. Vito Brada, thoughts? Great guitar player. He sort of fell off the map a little bit, and I wonder. I'd love to hear him play now, but I wonder what he's doing now. When I first moved to LA, this is my last story I'll tell, and then I'll split. He was living in the apartment building that I moved to. I used to live in the Oakwoods. Anybody ever lived in LA? A lot of people lived in the Oakwood. When I first moved to LA, I was living in this place called the Oakwoods, which was sort of the border of Hollywood and Burbank, I guess. And it was like a apartment hotel kind of that you could move into and either get a furnished place, sort of short-term rental. They put up a lot of actors there and musicians. So that's where Nirvana stayed when they made Nevermind in LA. Badlands was staying there when I moved in. So I'd go out to the pool and it'd be like Ray Gillen out by the pool, hanging out. Aldo Nova was staying there. And I used to hang with him, bunch of bands. And, so it was like, oh, this is kind of a cool scene. But corporate short-term housing was mainly what they did. And I lived in that apartment for 6 months and then I moved to Hollywood. But anyway, Vito Brada was living there when I moved in, and he was in the next building over from me. I lived in apartment U107, and I think he lived in V107 or something. And I was a big fan of his then. And so it was like, oh, wow, he was one of the first, you moved to LA, and then there's this guy living in your apartment building that you're a fan of for the last few years from Canada. It seemed like amazing. So I was this kid, and I was probably annoying. When I would see him, just wanted to, hang out and ask him questions or whatever. But anyway, he was always pretty nice, but then one day I got a piece of his mail. It's a true story. I got a piece of his mail delivered to my, so imagine you're from Canada and you're learning it's the weight solo, all the tapping and stuff and home. And then now you're living in LA and it seems like, wow, I've really arrived. Now I'm getting mail of this guy that, just because he has a similar he lives in the same building, similar number to mine. So I get a piece of his mail. And I went over and I thought, oh, it's a good chance to go over and say hi, of course. Right. But I go over and I knock on his door and he was like, what? Really mean, through the door. And he probably looked through the hole in the door and saw it was me or whatever. What do you want? Go away. Something like that. I was like, oh, shit. I was like, sorry, man. I got a piece of your mail. And he opened the door and he goes, oh, okay, thanks. And then he closed the door. And I was always like, well, fuck that guy then. I was just being nice. I could have hoped it. No. It's funny how these things are, he was probably on the phone having a fight with his girlfriend or something. Who knows what the situation was. And then he just responded like that. But that's my Vito Brada story. And anytime anybody asks me about him or his name comes up, I think of that day when he was like, what? Leave me alone. So anyway, everybody has a bad day. Anyways, All right. I would have apologized, said George. He might have said, "Oh, sorry, thanks," but then he closed the door. He like didn't. He was probably in the middle of some shit. Maybe he'd had a bad day. We got to cut him some slack. But everybody's asking other questions, like Renan, about how do I feel about string height? I like it low. Raising it sounds better. Can for the trade playability, yeah, but my hand sucks, so I gotta have it low. I have it as low as I can, and yeah. Some guitars deal with that better than others. All right, you guys, I gotta go. Evan Ward says Coke binge. Yeah, might have been. I don't know. They were in the middle of making a record. Who knows? Start room. We don't know. He was just having a bad day. It sounded like the kind of thing where when you're on the phone or something, having an argument, and then somebody knocks on the door, and he probably looked through the thing and was like pissed off, and like it wasn't my fault, and yeah, you know what I mean. I'm going to go with that. And with that, I'm going to go. So everybody have a great week. I'll see if I can get a guest for next week. Maybe, who knows? Maybe Jennifer will want to do it, or we'll see what happens. Work it out. But hey, I can't thank you guys enough, as always, for being here. Thanks, Ben Coombs. Everybody, check out Ben Coombs' stream tomorrow. It's his birthday this week. Everybody go check out his situation. Give him a subscribe, and wish him a happy birthday. For God's sakes. All right, everybody, take care. See ya.